What's up, everyone? Welcome to GameFace episode 143 on Sifted Games at sifted.net, and we are the Orange Crew.
Yeah.
Wonder Twins, activate.
Form of G4 or E3 shirts.
Yeah.
This kind of colors they would make us wear as the crew.
Yeah. Except I chose this color.
Yeah, well. Now you make us wear the color. We didn't plan this, by the way.
Yeah, we didn't actually. I pulled in and he was like, "Oh, we have a problem." And I was like, "That's not a problem at all." Hope you guys have had a great week. I hope you guys are playing some great games. We're going to talk about Assassin's Creed Odyssey again, which I still have not finished.
Not surprising.
Absolutely gigantic. Couple things before we get started. Folks on YouTube, thank you very much. We've been putting up episodes of GameFace on YouTube. You guys have been doing a great job of helping us out with Twitch Prime. For those of you who don't know what that is, all that stuff is down in the description. I also want to thank all our patrons who are giving us cash to support us, but also going and doing the Twitch Prime stuff for us. You guys are awesome, so thank you very much. T-shirt update. Matt and I are wearing the orange ones. Very interesting. Whenever I brought the T-shirts home, my wife looked at the orange ones and told me that I was never going to sell them. She's like, "You will have those 3 years from now unless you take them to Salvation Army." It has turned out that the orange is by far the most popular. It is completely mind-boggling to me. You guys certainly have different tastes from me, but
maybe it's hard to find a shirt this orange.
That's possible.
So when you see one, you got to go for it.
But I do want to let you guys know that in the orange shirts, we are pretty much sold out already. We're out of smalls, we're out of mediums, we're out of 3XLs. We have large and XLs left in the orange, and not many. I think there's like a handful of both. So if you guys really want the orange shirts, you should jump on this quick or they're going to be gone.
That's what I picked.
Yeah, we're also out of the smalls in the white and violet, I believe. But everything else is still there. Thanks to everybody who has bought the shirts. Just like I said last week, for whatever reason, the people overseas continue to come through on the shirts. I'm guessing the average has come down a little bit, but I think 70% of the shirts we've sold are to people overseas or in Europe or Asia. Those people are paying over $20 to ship one shirt. In America, the shipping is $5, and none of our American sifters are hooking it up. I don't know what's going on, but anyway.
Doubly interesting because I don't really associate graphic tees with like European fashion.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've been there a lot. And you don't see guys in T-shirts walking around much.
Yeah. But thank you, European sifters and Asian sifters. You guys are helping us out big time.
Maybe they wear them under the fashionable clothing they have.
These are fashionable, Matt. You wear the other stuff under this shirt.
I don't know, but there's some good-looking people over there.
There are, absolutely. But I do want to thank you guys for buying the shirts. I said when we break even on them, I'll stop wearing this shirt on the show. We haven't done that yet, so here I am.
I thought he meant that specific shirt.
No. I'm going to have to cycle back to the white with violet for next week. We'll see how it goes this week. Hopefully you guys go in and get yourself some shirts. But anyway, hope you guys are having a great week. It's been a great week for me playing games. They just keep on coming. One great game after another, week after week. I get Black Ops 4 tomorrow, I believe. I got an email saying that I'm supposed to get it tomorrow. I guess you saw the little note about how you can't play the game until day one. So if you have like a hookup who gets you games early and maybe you pay them a little extra money to get it to you early, don't do it. You won't be able to play Black Ops.
I don't even understand. I mean, I would never. I mean, I'm not going to buy it, but I would not buy it on disc anyway because there's no point.
Yeah.
It's like, why would I do that? So yeah, if I was going to buy it, I'd be waiting for the digital anyway.
So I'm assuming the servers are going up tomorrow if I'm getting the code. So
yeah, about a week. It makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's kick off the show proper. We're going to cycle back to Assassin's Creed Odyssey. We talked about it last week. Both Matt and I were, 10-ish hours into the game, somewhere around there. Neither one of us have finished the game still.
I'm not really trying, to be honest. I'm more of a wanderer in these games.
I'm not necessarily trying to finish the game, but we'll get to why I think that whole concept is irrelevant with this game anyway. But I have literally spent every spare moment I have had for the last 8 to 10 days playing this game, and I still have not finished it.
Yeah, it's interesting that there have been times when I played it a lot and I kind of put it down, and I was like, oh, I can't look at another freaking olive tree. You know,
Yeah.
it's like or I don't want to look at any more chalk cliffs, please. And like it kind of like overwhelmed me. It was too much. And then like 20 minutes later, I'm like, I should play more Assassin's Creed. Like it's gotten its hooks into me.
I'm guessing, I've not looked at my time. I'm guessing I've played 40 to 50 hours at this point.
Yeah, I'm in the same realm. Like I think my save is like 53 hours, but a few times I have kind of left it on idle and gone and done other things, so I don't think it's accurate.
Yeah.
But it's definitely between 40 and 50 at this point.
The game is just gigantic, and there's been
Huge.
kind of it's
I
crazy.
mean, even after all that, and I showed you my map. That's like basically the starting sections in Athens are uncovered, and then there's a strip to the southeast because I wanted to do the arena, so I just sort of sailed down that way and kind of did all that stuff. But all the stuff from the lower left and upper right of the map, I still haven't been anywhere near there. Partly because a lot of the stuff in the upper part is too high level for me still, but like there's so much left, and like every time you get there's all these like side quests and character-based stuff. Like not even like the procedural stuff that has no real meat to it, but like real like
legit
side quests where there's
quests,
conversations and cutscenes and things that happen, and some of it's very funny. Like it has a sense of humor. Like the Minotaur quest chain on Crete is actually really entertaining and kind of does some funny things.
I have not even done that yet.
And you get unfortunately so like part of the thing about it is a guy is dressing up as the Minotaur, and the thing he wears is a bull head made out of an actual bull's head that's been hollowed out, and like it's gross. It's really gross, and like that's what one of the rewards at the end of the quest. And it was the best helmet I had for like 10 hours, and I'm like, so I'm just running around with this decaying bull's head on my face, and like running around. And no one comments on it. Of course, I'm just like, oh, a woman dressed with a bull's head showed up and killed everyone and ran off with all our gold. I don't know, like. But so it was funny, but it was also I was very glad when I finally got a normal helmet that like outclassed it in the book, because it's not just about armor; it's about like the bonuses that like tie in.
The buffs on each piece. Yeah,
and I finally found something that like buffed armor percentage and fire damage in the way that I wanted it to, and switched over to that. So now I look much more respectable. But
probably
it is a long slog.
It's
so much to do, and like. I thought I'd get tired of it by now, because like one of the things I did go back and finish Origins a couple weeks ago because I wanted to finish it before this came out, and I was just the DLC I had to do, but that turned out to take me about 20 hours, and I was like, oh, I hope I didn't like overdose on this new Assassin's Creed formula,
because it is
to the point that like now I'm going to go to Odyssey and be like, well, I already played this like for 20 hours, I don't want to do it anymore. It's different enough to me in terms of how all the fights unfold that like, and how it's a more dynamic thing for some reason to me. I don't get bored playing this game, not yet. And I was a little bored playing Origins by the 50-hour mark, I'll tell you that much. I was just sort of complete by this point in Origins. I had turned the sound down and was like listening to like archaeology lectures and music while I was running around doing stuff. I was just over it, and I'm not doing that with the most of Odyssey at this point.
I'm starting to burn out on it. I'll admit. Now when I get a new quest, I'm like, oh really? Because I feel like the game was gonna wrap up like a couple different times, and then it didn't.
Because the story felt like it was kind of wrapping up.
Yeah, like you were reaching a conclusion of some sort.
Well, I mean, it is the Odyssey.
I mean, it's accurately titled. That's for sure.
The Odyssey is about a man trying to go home who keeps getting sidetracked for a decade, which is not entirely wrong. Because that happens to me. I mean, you saw when you came over today to start setting up. I was going to kill one of the cult members on the west end of Crete because I wanted to. I'm trying to gather enough to upgrade this. The artifacts to upgrade the spear.
Yeah.
And I had marked that guy at like 11:30 a.m. and was playing most of the time straight until you got here at like 3:30. And I was in a fight with him at the time you got here.
Wow.
Because that's how long it took me to not just get there to where I had to go and then work my way over to where it was, but on the way there I kept getting sidetracked by weird I'm like, because I intend to go to the place and just do the thing,
but there's so many distractions,
and there's things like, oh, I'll come back and do this later, but some things I'm just like, I gotta see what this is, and like I love that. That's my favorite thing about doing like an open world game, is when it can distract me enough that I don't realize that I've gone completely off the path I intended to do because I got distracted by all these other interesting things. And some games can do that, and some games can't. And this game is really good at doing it.
Let's talk about the big, really kind of sticking point with this game that people have been discussing since consumers have had a chance to play it, and it was mentioned in a lot of reviews, is the way the level gating works in the game. Now, I think this is a great discussion for us to have because you play games completely different from me, particularly games like this. You tend to just do tons of side quests and do everything. I tend to kind of stay on the main path and just stray off whenever I get interested in something.
I definitely, especially open world stuff, I will always do all the side stuff before I move the main story forward. This is probably in part a result of being an achievement nut in the 360 era, and usually back then there was a thing. Basically, the assumption was if you want to get all the achievements, you better be doing all the side stuff before you move the main story forward because you can miss stuff.
Yeah.
I don't care about achievements really anymore, but I still do play these games in a very completionist way.
And I would say I probably play it more like the average player does.
In my experience, I think that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, most people will just kind of don't feel compelled to do everything, and you can't do everything in this game.
Well,
because the procedural quests just never stop,
right,
so you have to kind of prioritize.
Yeah, those you just kind of got to let go of.
There is a secret to the best way, in my opinion, the best way to balance those, and I can get into that once we get to it. But because I think it's important, I think it's an important way of not gaming the system, but I think it's definitely the way they intend you to progress more quickly.
Well, here's the first thing I'm going to say on this topic related to this game is that you can't really play this game the way I usually play games. You can't. Maybe it's possible. I'm sure eventually videos will pop up of people doing it that are really, really good at the game. But I don't think it's possible for the average player to just mainline through the quests in this game because the way the enemies are leveled and how much more powerful they are than you, even if they're just one level above you, you pretty much have to experience the vast bulk, I would say, of the side content.
Yeah, it wants you to get lost. It wants you to kind of
Well, it wants you to experience all the content in the game.
It definitely wants you to kind of encounter most of the things that you can do. It doesn't want you to just ignore everything in favor of just sort of beelining through the golden path.
To see the story and all that stuff.
Because in part, and I think that is in part intentional because of...
Oh, it's intentional, no doubt about it.
But people think it's intentional to sell you microtransactions. I think it's intentional because it's part of the Odyssey idea.
I think it's a little bit of both.
A little bit, but
I mean,
but it's look.
It's funny that they put out this code that you can spend $10 on that makes it play like a normal Assassin's Creed game.
Well, whatever that means now.
Meaning that you can play it the way I usually play open world games.
I don't know about it because so we can't quite figure out, I guess, whether I have the boost enabled or not.
Right.
Because I bought the Ultimate Edition.
Yeah.
Which says it comes with something some kind of boost thing on it.
Boost, yeah.
But I can't find any indication of that, and when, like I showed you, when you go to the store on my game, it still has the permanent boost stuff for sale. It doesn't. Everything else says it is in the owned section, and mine doesn't have that. And then and you were also surprised by how much wood I had.
Oh yeah, I've been scavenging for wood the entire game. So literally every tree, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's wood.
So I don't have any kind of progression problems with the leveling or with the resources, and I think that's because of how I play the game and how
I think that's part of it. It might be part of the code that you have too.
There was no code though. That's the thing is there's no indication. There's never been any indication in my game.
But why wouldn't you get it if it comes in the package?
I don't know.
I think you've got it.
Maybe? I don't know. If I do have it, how come I can buy the $10 boost in addition?
I think that might just be an oversight.
Maybe.
Or maybe Ubi just wants you to spend the $10.
I mean, I wonder if I did that, would it then boost it even further?
Maybe.
Because at that point, that's crazy. Because I feel like the curve in what I'm playing is pretty smooth. And I'm not paying a whole lot of attention to the story. I am getting sidetracked a lot, so I've out-leveled the story on a regular basis.
Yeah. He's way higher level than me, and we've played about the same amount of time. Mm-hmm. I'm much farther in the story than you.
Yeah, but part of the trick is I think you were ignoring the bulletin board stuff
for a
long time. Because, frankly, most of the bulletin board stuff is pointless.
It looks boring,
It's all procedurally generated. Anything you see, you go to the bulletin board, anything that has the little hourglass mark next to it. Usually it's even titled like bounty for politician or bounty for whatever. Those are pointless. They're like, you get minimal XP. It's all the same sort of procedural, like, what's going on? I don't like this person. Okay, I'll go kill him. And you go kill him, come back. Good work. Here's some drachmae. It's like, great, you're done. It's not worth anything. But there are other quests on the board that have no icon. There's no little white icon next to them, and they're all like long-term. That's the other thing, is that things that they have a time limit on them.
Right.
Like those brownie quests. So the ones that have no icon have no time limit, and they're all stuff that you're going to do anyway. They're all stuff like destroy 5 Spartan triremes in the oceans, kill 10 Spartan brutes, sabotage 10 Athenian supplies, like stuff like things you're going to do in the course of playing the game anyway. And I pick all those up. And one of the weird things that happens is when you go to different boards, sometimes you'll get different of these quests that have the same objective. Yesterday I had 3 different titled quests that all had the same objective, which was destroy 5 Spartan triremes. So I went out and I did that, and I sank the 5th one, and all 3 quests popped at the same time and gave me like 30,000 XP,
oh my God.
And I went up a level and a half instantly.
See, that's what makes me think that you do have the XP boost, because even though you did 3 quests, like I've never got more than like 5,000 XP for finishing a quest.
I mean, 5,000 to 6,000 is about normal, but like
to me, it's like 2.5 to like. It's like 2,500.
Well,
like
they've gone up as I've leveled up into the late 30s.
Which is typical, yeah.
Because everything scales. Like even the story stuff and like the early stuff. Because there's stuff I got when I was like level 10 and I still haven't gotten around to it. And that stuff is everything that you out level is then scaled 2 levels below you. I think that's the same as like there was a level scaling option in Origins that did the same thing. But one way or the other, I don't know. Like, so I don't know. We'd have to start comparing exactly what we get for each thing and that. But like the leveling has not been an issue for me. You are correct that if you run into somebody who's 1 level above you, it is very noticeable.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Even now,
you got to chip damage them to beat them.
Yeah. Even now, like I'm at level 38. And even like I just fought a level 39 when because I was trying to kill that cultist, and somebody saw me kill somebody and reported me, and one of the mercenaries showed up, and the mercenary was level 39. It doesn't take that long to kill them because I have a lot of like bonuses on my sword and stuff. I've definitely built the sword to be, it's got like 15% damage bonus for swords. It's got all, so I'm doing more damage than just a standard weapon would. But it took a while.
Yeah.
It's very noticeable. If I run into somebody 2 levels above me, I will probably run.
Oh yeah.
They're very dangerous. My record for the mercenaries are the most dangerous characters in the game. My record is fighting 4 of them at once and not dying. Although there was a lot of cheesing and there was a lot of setting things on fire.
I cheese a lot in this game because what happens if you're playing the way I play, you'll finish a mainline quest and then you'll go look at the list of quests, and the next quest it'll recommend like the level. Mm-hmm. It'll be 3 levels above where you are. Mm. And there's just no way. If you go and try to complete that quest, they literally one-hit you and kill you. You could probably do it if you're an expert, but I mean, so much random crap happens in this game when you're in fights. People come from out of nowhere and attack you, or you get caught on like a table, and literally just one whack, you die. So it forces you to go back. And what I found is that I literally have to complete every side mission to get so I'm 1 level below the next story mission. And so I have literally had to play the entire game. There are points where I'm like, oh my gosh, I've done all the side missions. I'm still not 1 level below the recommendation for the next main campaign mission, and that's when I started using like the board stuff. That's when
that's what the board stuff.
That's when I went and fought like the pig.
Right.
So that's when I started like digging deep into
that. By the way, the pig is the hunting quest for the Artemis Daughters of Artemis thing. The pig is the hardest one in the whole quest line. Like just so you know, because like that was one of the first things I really had a moment where I'm like, I don't know if I can beat this, and then I came back when I was leveled up. But I realized that it
scaled probably.
Because I was the right level. I was the same level as the quest when that happened. And I leveled up twice and came back, and it was still pretty tough.
Yeah.
I had to.
So the pig hadn't actually gone up in level then?
The pig was still 2 levels below me. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it was 13, I was 15.
It was really hard.
And it was still.
It made me not do another one, and then I come here and Matt's like, "Oh, the other ones aren't anywhere near."
Yeah, the other ones are not because the pig.
I was like, "Screw this!" I had to fight him like 12 or.
No, I mean there's some crazy because I used like a spear and like just was really careful and used like the dodge slow time thing to like kill off the additional pigs. Because early on, I remember the first time I fought him, I was trying to use a sword because I prefer the sword, and I wasn't getting anywhere, and he was knocking me around, and then he summoned the other pigs, but I didn't realize what he was doing because I'd never seen him before. And I'm like, what's he doing? And the pig's coming from the sides of the screen, and one of them knocks me off my feet, and then the other one juggles me with in midair and knocks me out of the ring.
I hate the warthogs.
It knocked me out of the fight area, and I came back, and after I came back to the fight area, the boss pig's life had completely regenerated. And I'm like, well, fuck this. I'm coming back later when I got a better sword.
I hate the warthogs in this game.
So, yeah.
They're so hard to predict, and they take like a third of your health when they hit you.
So I've killed they're not so bad anymore now that I've got better equipment. But, I've killed the lion and the hart and I think one other, and they were all super simple compared to the pig.
The first one.
That's so weird. They start you with just
the hardest one.
Yeah, they for whatever reason they want to put the fear of God into you when you start.
It worked. Quest. I never even thought about doing another one after that, but now I will. That I've talked to you.
Yeah, so. the other ones I've done have not been near because they don't summon other animals to fight with you.
Yeah.
They don't have nearly as annoying because every quartered life bar basically they do a special move or whatever. But the deer was super, because the deer was the first one I fought after that. I'm like, oh, I hope this doesn't suck. And the deer has a move where he kind of charges you, and just you dodge to the side and he gets his antler stuck in the ground. And you just whack him. He does it constantly. And I was like, okay, this is fun. This is actually enjoyable. Okay.
I think my overall point about how the level gaining works is I think it was a bad decision, and here's why. The way the old games were made, I could enjoy them, and you could enjoy them. You could go and still collect everything and do everything you wanted to, and I could play the game the way I wanted to play it. The way this one is set up, and again, I did not play a ton of the last game. I stalled after 10 hours or something. So maybe this was the way the last one was, because I wouldn't have
said... It was, pretty much.
It was.
I think, actually, the leveling on this is much more smooth, and actually, it feels like the DLC for Origins, because one of the things that struck me about Origins is as soon as you get in the DLC, the quests start giving you 10,000 and more per quest. And the old ones were you got 25 XP for a stealth kill. In this game, you get in Odyssey, you get 250.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the difference in leveling totals are for each level. Maybe they just upped it by a factor of 10 or whatever, but it doesn't feel like that. It feels like I've leveled up just sinking ships and stuff. Yeah. Whereas in Origins, it was I have to get a quest done or I am never going to get to the next level. The Origins felt way stingier about giving you XP in any decent amount until the DLC. The DLC was the DLC threw 10, 20, 30,000 XP quests at you repeatedly, which is why getting that much XP for this stuff in this game did not really strike me as strange, because it felt like in Origins DLC they figured out that this is how they got to pace it.
Well, my point is that...
But there were points early in Origins where I'm oh, I guess they just want me to go wander around and do other shit. Because there's a point in Origins I remember early on where I finished a story thing and the next quest was 6 levels above me, and I'm oh, I guess I just gotta wander around and go find some stuff to do.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened nearly as much in this game, although I feel like this game, Odyssey, pulls me into just wandering around and seeing stuff and doing random things, and there's a fort, I'm just gonna go do that. For whatever reason, I am much more inclined to just kind of wander around and do whatever happens to pop up in front of me in this game than I was in Origins. Origins, I was more driven to kind of do I was more driven to do what happened next, and ended up having to do other things to get to the thing that happened next, if that makes any sense.
It does. But my argument is that I'm being forced to play through content that in my opinion, is not the best content in the game, and generally that's how it works. The side missions are not as interesting, not as intricate, not as involved, and that's why I usually skip a lot of it. I'll find some that look interesting, and I'll tackle them to kind of see what the side missions are like. But I'm not the person who's going to play through every one, and this game forces you to play through what I believe is the worst content in the game, relatively speaking. So I like the way the old games were, because you could play the game the way you wanted to, and I could play the game the way I wanted to. I cannot play this game the way I want to, and I think that's why I'm starting to burn out on it, because I've done the same quest types so many times at this point that look, I've played it for 40 or 50 hours. That's plenty. It just, I don't know.
Well, they're not going to release another one for 2 years, so they want to make sure this lasts 2 years.
It might. That might actually be part of the strategy. Who knows?
Could be. It feels, if most of the stuff does feel pretty well crafted.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're being a little hard on the side quest stuff. I think I agree with you in that regard on like the bulletin board stuff. I think because there's different sections in the quest log of like there's Odyssey, which is the main story. Right. There's character, which is like character.
Those are the side missions.
The side missions those are the side missions that involve characters you've met during your main quest, basically. Like so you go to this party and you meet all these philosophers, including Socrates, and now there's a quest I can do where Socrates has something he wants me to do.
Was that a side quest though?
Yeah.
I thought that was mainline.
Well, I have one right now that's him.
Oh, okay.
I haven't gotten through it yet, but there's one where it was one because it says the name of the character you're dealing with under the quest, and one of them says Socrates, and who is a weird character in the sense that like he's kind of a dork that nobody likes. Yeah. And like I kind of like that take on.
I mean, I kind of figured that's the way he was.
It might have been.
I mean, he's a genius.
And he was always asking people like he's kind of like the guy on your Facebook who won't stop asking like rhetorical questions about what does everyone really believe. It's like, dude, you don't like just say what you think. Yeah. And like that's actually a thing that like happens in the game where your character is like it's like talking to one of the other characters about Socrates, like he just asks a bunch of questions and never says anything, and they're like, that's pretty much him. The other weird thing about Socrates is he's one of the characters in the game whose character model clips through his own clothes. Like he's got a tiny section of his beer gut that like clips through the front of his toga. Gut. Yeah. And I'm like, how is that a thing? Like how did that not get fixed like the first day someone saw it? And like he's got like the toga wrapped over his arm because that's how you had to hold them together.
Right.
And sometimes when he moves his arm, the toga flap like freaks out and like orbits his hand 14 times or something. Yeah. It's just weird.
There's little stuff like that.
I mean, you've got the usual. It's not game breaking stuff, but you got little bugs that like
this
kind of.
This is actually
prop up
to me one of the cleaner Assassin's Creeds I've played in recent memory.
For its size, it is pretty. I mean, it's no Unity, that's for sure. Yeah. But it is. There's moments where I've had to restart the game several times because the game just went black. Like the screen just goes black when I come back from the menu screen, and like the sound effects still work, and I can still hear that I'm moving around, but I can't see anything. One time in the middle of an arena battle, my life bar disappeared, which is a problem in that scenario. So like you just had to make sure that I was healing myself to keep it up. And then when I left the arena, the life bar was still gone. And it remained gone, so I'm like, I better restart the game. One side character in a side quest chain had a rectangle around him the whole time. His character model had like a rectangular box around him that wasn't like a solid box, but it was like you could see the outline. It was like he was a badly matted special effect almost.
Yeah.
So just little things, like not like game breakers, but things where I had to restart the game a couple times and things that like
I've had
jumped out at me more often.
But I mean, I've been playing the game for like 50 some hours at this point. I've only had a couple issues.
At this point, we're QA testers.
Pretty impressive.
At that point. Yeah. But like, I've noticed a few more things of that nature in this than I noticed in Origins, which was interesting. Although,
that is interesting.
I didn't see as much stuff like that in Origins.
And one of the arguments I saw this week, people attempting to defend the game, they're saying, well, journalists have to plow their way through the game, and that's why they're complaining about the level gating and things like that. I am not in that position. I am not in a position where I had to hit a certain date or I have to finish. I'm playing it just as I would normally play a game if I were just somebody who went and bought it. And I'm having issues with it. And I think another thing you should take into consideration, too, is that these game journalists have been doing this for a long time. They've played under deadlines for a long time. So they still are going to be able to notice when a game is worse at something than another one. They may exaggerate to the degree that it has the issue, but in relation to other games, they're still going to be on point when they say it is worse in this game than it is in another one. And I agree. I think the level gating is an issue in the game depending on how you want to play it, and for the way I play the game.
I mean, if I was playing this on a deadline, I would definitely be annoyed by it.
Yeah.
It would definitely be an issue. It's not an issue to me because I don't play it that way. I am well aware I'm not going to finish it in time for the next thing I need to play to be current for this show. If I was just on my own with no obligations to something like that, I would probably just play this until Red Dead came out.
It is really addictive. I mean, I've played it 50 hours in the last 8 days. So the game is good. And I think the majority of the people who are going to buy this, who are Assassin's Creed fans, are going to really like it.
Yeah, I think so. Especially if you liked Origins' change-up of the format. I mean, the formula, this feels very much like Origins was a prototype for this.
Yeah.
Like, I think, I said it last week too, but I think more so even now, everything, all the systems in this game seem to work together to encourage you to kind of deal with the other systems, and there's a lot of overlap that makes it feel a little more
I think
organic.
encourage is a nice word.
Yeah.
You're basically forced to use everything and do everything.
Well, I don't really find that to be a problem. I would never describe.
That's how you would play it anyway.
Yeah, I want to do all the mercenary stuff. I want to kill all the cultists and upgrade my spear so I can upgrade my abilities, so I can do more cool stuff when I clear that fortress, so I can get the next tablet that gives me the mystery treasure to go over here to get that to sell that, so I can upgrade this, so I can keep using this. But I mean, like that's the chain. That's what I love. Yeah. I love that part. That's what I like in open world games, and that's what keeps me playing. And this one is doing it even better than Origins did, and I played Origins for 100 hours. So, like, yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. The one thing I will say is I'm a big fan of Assassin's Creed in general. Like, I loved the first game from the start. The only 2 games in the series I don't like are probably Revelations and 3.
Yeah.
And in fact, I still think 3 dumbed down the controls a lot in an effort to make it more streamlined, quote unquote.
But then they gave you like the tree climbing.
They added a bunch of stuff, and also like the point of the old games, the original games, was that you had all this massive amount of control over the character. They call it the marionette system. The buttons,
that's right.
Corresponded to all the legs and arms and stuff.
Yeah.
And when you took that away, like the characters became very sticky. When you're just trying to run down, you're trying to run down a street and you're sticking to the wall instead of
trying to run away from an enemy and you're getting caught on like a table or something.
And this, you still get some of that here. It's not as they've figured it out for the most part, but here and there there's still weird things where I'm like, I just want to climb up that ledge. Please let me climb up that ledge before this wolf kills me, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, that happens to me all the time.
Yeah, it's just that kind of thing, and I still miss the control.
And then you're like. You think you're going up, and then you end up like dropping down like one like handhold, and you get like killed. Like that stuff happens every once in a while.
I still miss that level of control from Assassin's Creed 2, the Ezio games, basically.
Yeah.
I think they made a mistake in revamping the controls for 3, and they've never completely recovered from it. Which makes the fact that one of the bonuses for pre-ordering this game is a remastered 3 even more hilarious to me. But like. So there's an issue with that, but like thinking about that and kind of in comparison to the old games, my favorite is still Brotherhood. 2 and Brotherhood, I think, are the peak of the series.
I think most people
and
agree
4,
that Brotherhood.
I mean, Black Flag is great because it's got ship stuff. I don't like Black Flag when it makes you get off the boat and eavesdrop on people.
Yeah.
That's why if you're feeling the need to go back and do the piracy thing, I would suggest Rogue, because I'd say Black Flag is like 50-50 piracy stuff and assassin-y stuff, and Rogue is like 80% piracy stuff and like 20% assassin-y stuff. But one of the things that I think I realized that I miss while playing this was, and partly because I read that Assassin's Creed oral history that was curated a few days ago, the idea of that the early games had of the blade in the crowd, where like the dynamic crowds and kind
just
of how
crowds.
You'd hide
that was a huge part of it.
You'd hide in groups and like your target would come by and like you just sort of do that quick like
remember
stab
it had
thing,
that whole mechanic
like
where if you'd walk with people at the right speed,
you'd automatically walk with them.
You became like this group and you
if
automatically walk with them.
And if the guy walked past you, you just like hit the button and you quickly stab him and no one even notices. And I was like, what happened? What happened to him? And you just walk and you're already down the street.
Yep.
And that was like one of the once Unity actually worked properly. Unity's whole thing was like there were thousands of people in the crowd. Like it was, that was the thing they doubled down on for next gen. What early on this generation was we can put tons more people in it.
Right.
And Syndicate had that too until they and so like that's one of the things I think I miss in the end is like the crowd density being part of the gameplay concept. I feel like maybe the next one they could start to integrate that more. Like maybe I don't know when they're going to set it or whatever. I think it sounds like we got 2 years at least before the next one.
Yeah.
I would love to see them reintegrate that idea back into the new formula, because I think that was a part of the series identity. That because I like this new action RPG angle a lot, but I feel like that's a part of the series identity that they've sort of lost and they should try to regain.
I think there's been a bunch of things that they've lost in the change. And
that's true, but I think that is the one thing that really stands out to me is like
that was a fundamental of
if you're
going
to do one thing with the new formula that would make it feel more like Assassin's Creed to me, it would be that, to bring that back.
Because honestly, this game to me is like Assassin's Creed The Witcher.
Yeah, or like Splinter Cell with swords.
Yeah,
a little bit. Like that's the other thing that bugs me about the control revamp from 3, and it bugs me to this day in this game, is the thing that was one of the things that was great about the Ezio era was that you had the right trigger. I mean, it was R2, I guess, on PS3. The right trigger made you go loud. Like you were by default, you were sneaky, and if you wanted to go, when you wanted to go loud, you held the right trigger
and
to stand up.
It was also like a run button, though.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
it was like it was what you held to move. It was, and now like you know 3 changed it so you have to rely on context-sensitive stealth zones.
Yeah,
which can go wrong real easy if you and the game disagree on where that bush stops.
Yep.
And happens in this game all the time. Where like you've got strips of bushes, foliage that you're supposed to hide in, and somewhere in there in the middle, there's like 2 inches where the developers didn't like overlap the 2 things, and suddenly I'm randomly
then they instantly
in the clear, and everyone's like there, and I'm like,
and next thing you know, there's like 5 flaming arrows coming.
Dude, I'm in 5 inches of bush. Like you could see me already anyway. You're up there. You're looking down at me. I am a guy in a hood. In 4 inches of grass. I guarantee you I'm visible, but now I'm outside of the magic stealth zone, and I have no control over that. Because like that's one of the things in stealth games like this. I think if you have to make sure the player always feels that they have control over what they've screwed up, and don't feel like the game screwed it up for them. And I continually feel like the game screwed it up for me.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I feel like
in that sense,
I feel like Assassin's Creed has been kind of that way for a while.
Oh yeah, it goes back to 3.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the things that they lost when they got rid of the go loud trigger, and they've never quite found a way to make that satisfying. They've come close, and sometimes they just give you the tools to work around it. I think they've done that in this. I mean, rarely do I run into a situation where I'm given away by a lack of bush coverage, and then I can't fight my way out of it. But I would have preferred to succeed at what I was trying to do instead of having to just stab people for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think to kind of wrap it up, if you love the old style of Assassin's Creed, I think, and you didn't play Origins, you're in for an eye-opener here.
Yeah.
You're getting a ton of game here, and you very well could play this for like 2 months if you played it like a normal human being, which I'm obsessive with games, and I just kind of plow through them, but a lot of people can't do that or don't want to do it that way. This game could literally last you for months. I mean,
yeah, no question.
It is really, really big. Bigger than I think people who have not played it yet can even really comprehend.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is that I'm going to keep playing, and then Starlink is going to come out next week, and I'm going to start playing that. And then Red Dead comes out, and I'm going to start playing that. And sometime around Thanksgiving, I'm going to go back to Greece.
Yeah.
Even though I have not finished Red Dead Redemption 2 yet.
Yeah.
Because we know that's also going to be a thing that is huge and happens.
But I also think more casual fans of the franchise should be warned, because if they did not play Origins, they're in for a rude awakening with this game. You're going to have to play the whole thing. Lots of quests and stuff like that you may not have messed with in prior games. You're going to have to play it, unless you're like a god at the game. Like, I don't even know if you could be good enough to overcome the level gating in this. I don't even know if that's possible. I think you can
to some degree, but if as soon as that, because they have the level coding on the enemies, because it's like you can have a couple levels above them, but then if you go beyond that, the number turns red. And if you go a couple levels beyond that, it's just a skull.
Yeah.
If I don't know, you would have to be real good to fight anyone with a red number.
I don't think you could. I don't think you could beat them.
I mean, you could.
You could beat one. But you never fight just one.
Well, no, you could, but it would take you so long. You might as well just do the fucking side quest.
Yeah, because you could probably go do the side quest and come back in the amount of time you have to redo it to chip him down. Finally,
exactly.
Yeah. The whole game is a lot of chipping. It's like you have these bars that and you're delivering these insane combos that knock them up into the air and slam them down on the ground, and they lose a pixel of health. It's kind of absurd.
The damage is more related to your gear.
It absolutely
than what you're doing and what your
abilities. Make sure you're engraving gear at the blacksmith.
Engrave the gear. Keep your favorite
difference.
Stuff upgraded properly.
That's another thing I don't like, though, is how you're constantly having to go into the menus and re-equip new gear.
I don't do that too much anymore.
I'm always in, because it's like you never get a whole set. So you don't get now I have a new helmet, and I have a new sword, and I have new a body armor, and I have new greaves, and I have new leg armor. You'll get a helmet that's level 19, but you're only level 17. And then you'll get chest armor that's actually your level, and you can use that right away. And then 40 minutes later, you'll get the greaves. And so I'm just constantly going back, because you need to get that next level of that gear to make the game manageable. So I'm just constantly going in and
I think that's definitely true.
Adjusting my gear.
In the early parts, I haven't had to worry about that for 15 levels or so.
But you play it completely different from everybody else.
Yeah,
well, not everybody else.
But I'm still fighting guys at my level with my gear on. Like as long as you're upgrading your engravings and keeping that going. Like for a long time, I was using a level 28 sword until I was level 34, and then I finally upgraded it again.
Sometimes you can upgrade gear at the blacksmith, and it will be more powerful than gear that you get that's technically 2 or 3 levels higher.
Well, yeah,
than
because usually what you're upgrading is a purple or a yellow or a gold.
It's extreme.
And gold and the level of rarity determines kind of the cap of that. So a level 4, say I've upgraded my level 28 legendary to my current level. That's going to be a higher damage rating than than the best purple I ever find at that level. So I keep upgrading for the most part the gold stuff, which is expensive. Those take a lot of resources to upgrade. So I only do that every 10 levels or so.
It's worth it though.
I'm hanging in there. And the other thing is, of course, as long as you're keeping your assassin damage up with whatever gear you're using, you can take out some pretty powerful dudes.
It is pretty hilarious though when you're perched up on a castle wall. And there's a guy down on the ground, and you dive down from 30 yards and do your assassination move, and it literally takes 1/30th of his bar off. You can just see.
Don't run into that.
It happens all the time. All the time. All the time.
Where are you doing that?
I mean, there was a comic about it from Penny Arcade today. That was actually the middle cell was the guy jumping from a wall down onto an enemy and the guy losing that.
Oh, yeah. Well, he steps to the side and he lands on the spear.
Yeah. But if you're playing the game the way the average person plays it, that is what you're dealing with.
But you can't be because
it is
the levels
absolutely
true. But the levels are the levels. If you're a level this,
I'm just telling you after 40 hours of playing the game this way, that is my experience. The rank and file guys, I can take all their health with one shot, one assassination. But you start talking about the captains in the camps or whatever, literally, assassinations will take about 1/20th of their health off.
Yeah, with the captains, I'm usually going to do the whatever you call the double strike.
Yeah.
The thing that you hold the Y button and that you do a double damage strike on them, which usually can take a little over half off them for me right now.
The one that I use is you hold L1 and then hit one of the face buttons, and he does the sweep with the legs where they fly up into the air, and then
that's the spear kill. That actually is weaker.
Is it?
It only does the level 1 version of that only does 60% assassin damage. So you're doing less damage than if you just stabbed them.
I've tried a million ways.
I'm
not alone on this. So there's tons of people out there that are having the same experience.
I know, but what I'm saying is it's not so much a difference of how you play in that you don't understand how to use the systems you're given to deal with those enemies. So what I do with those guys in a situation like a fort, first off, I pick off every normal dude I can. Obviously, I mean that's obvious.
Yeah.
But if then I'm down to the last dude, I will use the predator strike, which is the sniper shot with the bow, to plink him a couple of times because that can usually take off about 1/3 of his life with 2 or 3 hits. And if you're in cover, they can't tell where they know where the shot came from, but they don't know you're. It's not an instant I know where you are kind of thing. Yeah. So then as they move to investigate with a little yellow exclamation mark, I'll move and snipe them again and move. And when I think that they're down far enough, I'll maneuver myself around or above them and do the hold triangle /Y double strike, and that will usually kill them. The only time that gets more complicated is if they are a yellow, if they're a gold captain, and I decide I want them on my ship crew.
Right.
Which means I have to knock them out, which means I have to use the Sparta kick, which is the most unreliable frickin'. There's 2 reasons that's unreliable. First off, it does almost no damn damage.
It does not.
So you got to hack them down way low.
Unless you can get them off of the roof.
Yeah, but that kills them. So
if you want to,
if I want to recruit them, I got to do it on the ground. And the other thing I run into when I'm trying to do that is if you kick them. And instead of just losing their health and landing on the ground where they'll roll around until you can recruit them, if they hit another object, that object will kill them.
Yeah.
Which is fuck you. If I use the kick on them, I clearly don't want them to die, so why don't you just give me a break?
But I use the kick to absolutely kill enemies.
Oh, I kick people off shit all the time. I mean, that's one of the most fun things in the game.
Yeah.
It's also how I take ships fast.
Yeah.
That's a good
Just
way.
kick 'em off a
Anyone
boat.
with the gold shield above them, just boot them off into the ocean, and the sharks will take care of it.
Yeah.
Which I love. I love the
And
sharks.
that is a
in this
good part
game.
about the game is that you can find different ways to tackle the
Yeah.
same problem. For instance, you and I fought the boar mini boss completely different ways. We both found ways to defeat him.
But we were both annoyed.
We were. Yeah, we both thought we were. We both at a certain point thought we were not going to be able to
Yes.
beat the pig.
And it put us off the rest of that quest
It did.
chain.
I never
Yeah.
went back and fought another one.
I only did it because I fell into the Nemean lion area for another quest or something, or I think it had like an object I needed. I had like ancient tablets or something I wanted, and I'm like, well, I guess I'll try to fight the lion, and like I was like, oh, this is easy.
I actually beat him.
This is simple.
Yeah. But I think overall, we both recommend the game.
Yeah, no question.
It's certainly worth $60. You are getting your money's worth and then some. And I would say maybe if you're a person who can only play on the weekends, maybe you have a job and maybe you have kids that keep you busy during the week. If you only play it on weekends,
You're good till Easter.
you may not have to buy another game.
Yeah, you
for
won't
the
have
rest
to spend
of the year.
it. Yeah, choose wisely because it's like I feel like you're either going to want to play this or Red Dead.
Yeah, and you
Like-
probably won't fall into the grind either. I mean,
Unless you want to beeline. I mean,
although I
if
would
you're-
say, like, you kind of have to play this game to get good at it.
yeah.
So
I mean,
I don't
I-
know
I
if
do-
like playing for like 4 hours and then coming back 2 weeks later,
I think you'll
that
learn-
might be a frustrating experience.
I think learning the systems is more important than 'cause the combo system is not that complex.
No,
It's not. It's no Dark Souls,
No.
even though they're taking inspiration from it.
Yeah.
I will say, do not underestimate elemental damage.
Yeah.
Poison and fire. Like I don't usually use that kind of stuff in
I don't
games.
either, but I use it in this
I
game.
prefer just like hit you really hard with the weapon and
Yeah.
let that be the damage. But
been using it.
setting guys on fire and poisoning them with your weaponry is like
But
do it.
again, from the way
Very
I'm playing,
powerful.
it's kind of a necessity. Like I would normally never like imbue my weapons with anything.
Oh, I wouldn't either, but I do it.
But in this game, like one, it's kind of fun and cool because of the way it works. But also, it's necessary, I think, for some of the tougher enemies.
it definitely expects you to be using everything
Yeah.
in your toolbox, and it definitely changed. It was a game changer when I finally like used something. I'm gonna because it happened with the firework. It was basically like I was fighting mercenaries who had fire abilities, and I was finding it was really annoying to deal with them.
You have to
And
keep
I'm
rolling to put
rolling
it out.
around, and like they kept hitting me, and every time I get close to them, even if I was close and like doing good damage, they could just poke me once, and now I'm on fire. I got to break everything up
Yeah.
and roll around, and I'm like.
Wait a minute.
Wait,
Maybe I should be doing that.
What if I literally fight fire with fire, basically?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it works really well. Like, it's
Yeah.
great. And you can hit huge groups of them with it, and they all
They have like a
freak out.
meter,
And,
so
yeah, it's like
as you
fills
hack
up.
them, it fills up, and when it gets full, they actually either ignite or get poisoned.
Yeah, and you can upgrade it to make that meter fill real fast,
Yeah.
like almost instantly.
Like
with-
2 hacks or whatever.
Yeah, and very useful. And also, if you look at the mercenaries in the mercenary lineup, if you zoom on them, you will see that they have weaknesses.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times it will be weak to poison or weak to fire, and that can be a big help when you're being hunted down by these jerks
Yeah.
who just seem to know where you are.
I'm
Like,
over the mercenaries at this point. I'm done.
I like how
I hate them.
I like how they disrupt.
I
stuff.
liked them at first, and because for that reason, but now they're just annoying.
I like
and like
them
it's
'cause-
just my meter's always full, and I'm either spending a ton of gold to like pay off to bribe them essentially, or I'm fighting
done
like
that.
3 of them while I'm clearing out a fort. It just gets annoying.
I've never paid off any of that. I do sometimes, because sometimes if someone sees you kill a leader in a it's not a county, I guess a nation. They
Yeah.
call it. If someone sees you do that, and sometimes you have no choice because they just sit in the market,
Yeah.
and like I'm just gonna go up and stab you, you get an instant maximum.
Yeah.
And then like I will always find the little red money bag, and you run to that guy, and I will just run straight into the camp. And like
Kill the money
and just
bag,
like
yeah.
stab and kill him, and then just run out because like
Yeah.
stabbing the one guy gets rid of your wanted level.
Well, then
so.
someone will go and like set the fire that brings in all the reinforcements. Like, I don't know. I liked it at first because it made things unpredictable. But at first, I thought that I had just randomly run into them. That's not how it works. Like, they literally know where you are. So as soon as you get the alert, a new mercenary has been sent out. Literally within like 30 seconds, you see that frickin' mercenary.
Well, it's not quite how it works because they are put on specific islands. Like they wander around an island, but if you get an alert, it's like a cop, I guess, in GTA. If you get an alert, they will then whatever closest mercenary on your island will then jump to where you are and come over to kind of investigate.
They know exactly where you are. Like, you could be hiding in a bush when you get that alert, and the guy appears, and he immediately walks right over to that bush.
Well, I've never seen that.
It happens all the time.
They come
never
in,
seen you, has no idea, should have no idea where you are.
No, I've never had that happen.
Unless they secretly had cell phones in ancient Greece, and the people are like, oh, he's over in the bush.
They come in and they look around, and if they see bodies, they'll poke around, and they sort of like do weird sort of like, they do sort of a wandering thing around there, and they are much better about alerting. Like if you're in a fort area, this is one thing I've noticed a lot. One thing, if you're in like a big fort, and you can get, if you get in a fight or you like go loud with some guys over on one end of the fort and you're out of visual range of the other side, the other guys on the other side of the fort will not run over.
Yeah,
like they won't
right.
But if you do that on one side of the fort and there's a mercenary and you have a wanted level, you're the mercenary on the other side of the fort, that mercenary will realize that and bring all the other guys with you. Like the mercenaries are just way more alert, basically.
Yeah.
I still like them. Because I like the nemesis system thing where you never quite know what you're going to deal with them. For the most part, they seem to play fair in the combat. They just got
they do.
They got better abilities than
I
your
beat
average
them all.
soldiers.
Like I honestly stopped paying the ransom. I just kill them all.
Yeah.
Because of
no reason not to.
Well, another reason too is because of the level gating, and there were certain points in the game where I was just scrounging to get XP so I could seriously, so I could continue with the quest. And so
they give good
and
XP.
I'm like, so if they're going to keep sending these guys, I'm just going to keep killing them because it'll keep me from having to do side missions I don't want to do. So they're.
You can also look on the mercenaries like board, or the mercenaries like screen.
Yeah.
You can look at each one and they'll tell you what they're going to drop, and some of them do have gold items, which are one of a kind, and that's the only way you can get them.
Yeah.
So
I keep killing them.
And they all have
I think
bios.
I paid them off like twice.
That's one of the things that I thought was most amazing is every single one of those fuckers has a bio.
Yeah.
Like they have a story.
Oh, the game is exhaustive.
It's incredible.
It really is. So there you go. Definitely worth $60. I mean, if you've ever enjoyed an Assassin's Creed game, this is, like I said earlier, a little bit more like a traditional action RPG like The Witcher. But if you like Assassin's Creed, I don't think anyone's going to regret spending $60 on this game. It is a gigantic game. It can be intimidating. There were times where I was like, man, like, is this thing ever going to end? Like, I still feel that way right now after playing some today. But I think most people don't play games the way that we do. And I think that, and even, it doesn't even bother me that much, honestly. But I think most people who have enjoyed Creed in the past are going to enjoy it. And I think you'll get your money's worth. And good luck getting it finished before Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out.
Or Christmas.
Really, yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to complain that a game expects me to play it. Really, like I feel like most of the content's worthwhile. Ignoring the content I don't like. The only content I don't like is the procedurally generated fetch quests, and ignoring those has had zero downside so far.
A lot of the side missions are fetch quests, though. It's either go here and get this, or it's go here and kill this dude and get something and then bring it back.
Yeah, but at least like the design side quests tend to at least send you into a new like location you haven't explored that sometimes has other stuff in it and cool things to find, whereas like the procedurally generated stuff on the bulletin board is like, I mean, it's literally like go here, talk to this woman, and then go talk to the. I did one last night that was like talk to this person. They give you an item to deliver, and like the delivery guy, the person to deliver to, was 200 yards behind me. It was just like, all right, cool. Like
you're really lazy, but thanks for the gold.
thanks for the 500 gold.
Yeah.
And the 99 lumber.
Yeah.
Like, did you just give me a bunch of logs?
I'll take that. It's hard.
Where did
for
you
me, it's
keep
been
that?
hard to get wood in this game, and you need the wood to upgrade your ship. So, all right, we got to move on. I think we've probably spent 90 minutes talking about Assassin's Creed Odyssey between two episodes.
It hasn't even been an hour.
All right, we're going to move on. We're going to talk next about a VR game. Believe it or not, we're going to talk about a VR game on GameFace. We have not talked about VR at all in months. I think the last time we talked about VR on GameFace, we were wondering whether it was doomed. And for good reason. I mean, there's a reason we haven't talked about it in months, because there are no games that warrant talking about them on the show. But that has all changed, at least for me. I have been playing Astro Bot Rescue Mission for PlayStation VR. Well, I wouldn't say I have been playing it. I played it and I finished it. And it is flipping awesome. It is amazing. It is hands down the best VR game I have ever played, and it's not even close. Some of you guys may remember Astro Bot from was it a free? Yeah, it was a free demo that you could download.
The Playroom VR thing, yeah.
Yeah, Playroom VR, which is a free demo that you could download at the launch of PlayStation VR. I'm guessing it's still free to download.
Should be.
Yeah. And you can get a taste of it if you want to, if you have PlayStation VR, before you invest in the full game. In my opinion, even back then, if you go back and look at the GameFace episodes from when PlayStation VR launched, I was saying back then that it was the best VR experience that I had back then. Well, they have crafted an entire game around that short demo. It was developed by some former members of the Ape Escape team.
That makes sense.
Which, yep, absolutely. Like when you start to think about it and look at it, it makes a ton of sense. And it is a 3D platformer that is played entirely in VR. And you may say that genre doesn't sound like it would be a good genre for VR, but I've got to say that I have not played another game that made me feel more in a place, as a part of that place, than this game. And the coolest thing, one of the coolest things that really blew my mind about the demo was sitting on the couch and then having the character run up and like run around my feet. And like looking down over my knees and watching this character run around like by my feet. And this whole game is like this. You're basically the camera. And most importantly, I probably should have said right at the beginning, I do not get sick playing this game. So if you get motion sickness from VR, I have had zero problems with it. And the reason why is because you're not moving. You're basically a stationary camera observing what's going on. And not only is it a VR game, but Astrobot Rescue Mission makes use of all the functionality of the PS4 suite of hardware. The gyro and motion controls are used extensively in this game. The DualShock controller becomes like a part of the game. So if you remember in the demo, after you capture all the little bots, they would fly into the controller. And that was really cool. And it had like a great force feedback where you'd feel each one of them going into the controller. Well, they've completely expanded on that for the full game. Like the DualShock is kind of a character in the game itself. But it makes use of the gyro controls inside the DualShock 4. There's even like a ninja star throwing mechanic in the game that was very reminiscent of like some of the early Wii U demos, oddly enough. You use your head, so it tracks. There's lights on the HMD, the PlayStation VR HMD, and it tracks how you move your head. Obviously, it needs to just for the camera, but there are parts in the game where objects come up and you actually have to headbutt the objects to like bust walls down.
Yeah, I assume that's what the little like.
Yep, that's what those smash signs are for. You have to use your head to headbutt through them. But then there's other parts of the game where you like are underwater and you get like seaweed like caught on the helmet, and you can shake your head and the seaweed will fly off of the helmet. This game is loaded with cool stuff like that. But
I see. There's something there.
Yeah. But most importantly, it's a great 3D platformer. And I would like to say, or consider myself an aficionado of the genre. I've played pretty much all of them. It's one of my favorite genres. And this game is great. Like, I would play this game without VR, although I don't think it would work very well without VR. But I would play this game.
Being the perspective and kind of knocking things around with your face is sort of part of the deal.
It is part of the deal. Because one thing I would say, if I do have one complaint, it's that a lot of the times the way the levels are designed, they're pretty small and claustrophobic, which is important if you're staying still as the camera. But there are still moments where the character is so far away from you, he's literally like 5 pixels on the screen, and you're trying to platform and attack enemies and things like that while he's that far away. That's one of the only issues I've found with this game. The creativity in this game is amazing. Watch this sequence right here. So right now you're inside a creature. You've been swallowed,
which is the lower third down,
which is a 3D platformer staple or stereotype, depending on what you want to say. But so right now you're inside this creature, and it seems okay at first. You're like, okay, I'm taking out some of these enemies. But here in a minute, something starts happening, and it's something I've never seen in a 3D platformer in my entire life. The area starts to flood. And again, not a big deal for a 3D platformer. Water's not a big deal, but the water starts coming in waves, and you have to use the waves to get over obstacles that are on the floor. So you wait for a wave, and here we go. So you wait for a wave to come in, you swim your butt off so you can get over. See how there's spikes on the ground? and you do this like 3 or 4 times to get over all. This game is just loaded with stuff like this. Like it literally is like, to me, is like a Nintendo game. And there's more than a couple nods to Super Mario Sunshine in this as well. I mean, obviously he's got a flood pack. The most common attack you're going to use are the water jets coming down, and I love that mechanic. It's so satisfying to use those jets to explode enemies that you hover over top of. It's kind of like this game's version of the butt stomp, I guess, is the best way I could put it. The controls feel great. The boss fights in this game are amazing, not because they're different from boss fights you've played before or they look different or act different. It's the scale. Like, you fight a gigantic boss in a lot of games, you're like, oh, he's big. My character's small, he's big. When you're in VR, you really understand the size and the power of the bosses. I'm afraid of them. Like, there's one boss fight where you fight like an octopus, and he's slamming down like his tentacles onto the platform, and you're like squirming away trying to, and you're scared. You're like, oh my gosh, this like 5-ton tentacle is trying to smash me. Like, the perspective makes a world of difference in this game.
So do you think, as was said by some of the reviewers, do you think this is the Mario 64 moment? Yeah, that's a big claim.
Yeah, I don't think I go that far.
I definitely reacted strongly to the Astrobot part of
demo.
Player in VR. That was a thing where I'm like, wow, this is really cool. Like, this is not a thing I expected to think was really cool. It's like the third thing I picked in Player in VR because, like, yeah, I played a 2D platformer before.
Yeah.
Who cares if it's in VR?
Yeah.
But it was one of the things that really stood out. And it was cool that thought it was cool that they're going to make a full game out of it. I have not pulled the PSVR out of the closet to play it.
Dude, there was so much dust on my PlayStation VR. I sneezed. I had like an allergy attack, dude, when I pulled out my PlayStation VR.
Well, I mean, I put mine back in its box to move. Literally a year ago. It hasn't. I have not unpacked any of my VR stuff since I moved. It was right before Thanksgiving. Right in late November.
Mine was sitting in the entertainment center. So this moment here, when you fight the first boss and his head comes up, but you watch it on a 2D flat panel TV, it's like whatever. When you're playing this in VR, it's scary. He's like gigantic. Like his tooth is like the size of you. The game itself is structured like Super Mario 64, except instead of collecting stars, you're rescuing the bots. So you have to rescue X number of bots on a stage before you can move on to the next. There are other collectibles that you can go back and get if you want 100% the game, but I think the biggest ding on it is that I finished the game in 5 hours. And I did not collect everything. I did some collection just to see what it was like, but I did not collect anything, and I just kind of mainlined through it, and it only took me 5 hours. Now, the game is only $40, so it is on a discount, and I would argue that that's about the right price for the game. You can go back and try to perfect your play and collect everything if you want to. I'm sure trophy hunters out there will go back and make sure that they got everything to get all the trophies. But to me, and I did buy this game, this was not sent to me for free. I spent my own money on this game, and it was worth every penny. Every penny. I remember back with Playroom VR, what really just blew my mind, like I was saying earlier, was just having this character independent of you, moving around you while you sat still. And I remember looking down at my feet, and there was all these flowers coming up, and just watching the guy run around. And I just sat there and did that for like 10 minutes. Here's 6 hours of mind-blowing stuff like that. It is, I mean, easily so far VR Game of the Year for me.
What do you think about, on the Mario thing, but like...
there you're seeing like
the seaweed.
Yeah, the seaweed. You can shake it off.
I think like Jeff Kanata said that if this was a Mario game, like people would be saying Game of the Year was decided. Like, do you think if this was...
I wouldn't go that far.
If this was I think he said it in a skeptical manner. It was like a cynical manner, rather, in the sense that like if this had been done with something that people recognize more, it would be making more waves than it is.
Well, I'll put it to you this way: the game is good enough that that statement is not absurd. It's within the realm of reason. Like, I can understand why somebody would say that, because we keep hearing like, this is the VR game that does it. This is the VR game that does it. And then I would play them and I'm like, no, this is not going to do it.
The VR game that does it is going to be the one that comes with a $100 headset.
Yeah.
That doesn't need a computer to plug in.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
It's a cost thing more than anything else at this point, I think. I think the Oculus Quest is a good step in that direction, but like, this is a good reason to dust off my PSVR, maybe. But
No, it absolutely is, Matt.
But I don't know if this is a reason to buy one.
No. Nope. If that's what ultimately you were asking me with Jeff Kanata, no, it's not worth spending.
Well, if people are going to sit there and say this is a Mario 64 moment, that's why I bought an N64.
Right, and that's why I would say it's not to that level. But I would also argue that PlayStation VR's library at this point is getting to a place where it's pretty good. It has pretty much every genre at this point playable in VR, and now like the shooters are starting to get good.
This is the only one that doesn't make you nauseous, though.
It is, yeah. This is it. Like, this is the only game that has not made me sick playing it. And some games I can last longer than others, but this game I never ever felt sick. I mean, the only thing I would say is that, you know, I'm used to playing games in long stretches, and I enjoyed this game so much that I wanted to just keep playing it, and man, did I sweat a lot playing this game. My head just sweat for like 3 or 4 hours straight. So yeah, that's one thing you don't realize if you haven't spent that much time playing VR, which I haven't. Like, it's always been like this thing where I play it for an hour and put it away. This game I sat and played for hours at a time, and it was different having that helmet on for that long. But ultimately well worth it. If you have PlayStation VR, go and buy this game right now. Don't even think twice about it. You bought your PlayStation VR for this game. You just didn't know it yet. Now you do. I cannot recommend it any higher. It is the best VR game I've ever played. It controls well. It's designed well. The level design is ridiculous. The integration of all the other hardware features from PlayStation 4, a lot of that gear that you've had that you're like, man, I never use this crap, you're going to use it in this game, and it's going to be used in very creative and unique ways. I don't know what else I can say to recommend it more. It's worth the $40. Is it? Maybe someone's going to ask me, well, it's Q4. Is it worth sacrificing one of the other big games to buy it? I say absolutely yes, because it is a completely different experience. If you're sitting there right now saying, well, should I buy? I know I'm going to buy Assassin's Creed, or I know I'm going to buy Red Dead. Should I also buy Tomb Raider, or should I buy this? Buy this. That's where I would place it. Just really good, and just kind of out of nowhere, out of left field. I mean, obviously the demo showed a lot of promise, but I wondered, I'm like, would I like to keep doing this for hours and hours? Yeah. And the answer was a resounding yes. Really, really good stuff. This team should probably just make a regular 3D platformer.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Because it's a limited market on
for sure.
PlayStation VR, but
I do think there's like some commentary I've seen where people are like, "Oh, there's no reason for this to be VR or whatever like that." I think
they're absolutely
definitely like non-understanding, like, because I would have said the same thing when I just watched the Astrobot like demo in PlayStation Playroom VR.
Yeah.
But like once I'm like, no, the experience is a thing that you don't understand until you've done it, and I assume that this is like that, but times 10 or whatever, you know, like.
Yep.
Because they've had a lot more. Because the Astrobot demo in Playroom is just sort of like you're sort of playing a 3D platformer, but you have this different perspective and you have this different way of looking at it, and it's just like, oh, this really works. And like this, clearly they've added mechanics that require the VR aspect to function in the way they're meant to be. That I think you'd lose something by.
Oh, you absolutely would lose something. The Astrobot demo in Playroom VR is one of like 3 things that I show people when they come over and they're like, hey, you have VR, can I try it? I show them Astrobot. I show them the Resident Evil 7 demo where you're just sitting in the chair.
The kitchen thing? Yeah.
Yep, the kitchen thing. And then I just put them in the PlayStation VR world's like shark cage. And that's the first thing I do. I put them in the shark cage first so they can get their bearings in VR. And, you know, they lean over and look down and like, ooh, and they like reach out and try to touch the jellyfish or whatever. And then I put them into Astrobot, and then I finish it off with the kitchen.
Yeah, I've had people play this on the Playroom VR, or the Astrobot demo. If I have the Vive out, I will do the lab, because that is the most
that's pretty good.
Accessible. And then I will usually, if it's the right kind of nerd, I will put them in the Battlefront VR X-Wing thing, because that's still
intense.
One of my favorite things, just because it's like, oh,
very brief, but
it's brief but awesome.
It is, yeah.
And I wish they'd make something more full-fledged like that. I was looking forward to Ace Combat 7 for something similar to that, but then it turns out...
I'll never be able to play that.
Then it turns out it's only 3 missions.
Oh, really?
The VR mode in Ace
Are you kidding me?
No, the Ace Combat 7 VR mode, it's the tutorial of how to take off, and then there's an air support mission where you have to take off and shoot stuff down to help like a ground support thing. And then there's a third mission they haven't talked about yet. That's it. That's the whole VR mode. It's 3 missions and one of them's the tutorial.
That was marketed as like the killer app.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, they never said it was going to be like the whole game or anything, but like they were saying, I think the implication...
I thought it was going to be playable in VR.
Well, there were talk that one of the reasons it was delayed for so long because they were converting more of the game to VR, but apparently not. And I mean, there was a interview from like TGS or something like a year ago where they imply like 5 to 7 missions. So I don't know what happened to that. I'm really looking forward to that game one way or the other because I like Ace Combat, but I was hoping that was going to be a big, cool VR thing. It's 3 missions!
Yeah.
I've got to hand it to Sony.
Yeah.
Damn it!
I've got to hand it to Sony, though, because it is stuck with PlayStation VR.
Yeah, I figured they would.
It could have bailed. I did not know it would, because Sony has bailed on peripherals time and time.
They have, but I think they threw a lot of money.
They put them out.
They threw a lot of money at this.
The R&D for this was probably insane.
Yeah.
But I'm glad. I mean, because now we're finally starting to see the sweet spot with this platform. Also, the game is gorgeous, by the way. For whatever reason, the footage that I captured from the game looks blurry and a little washed out. Playing it in PlayStation VR, it looks amazing. It's also one of the best-looking PlayStation VR games I've played.
It's very clean. There's a definite resolution trick difference when you take something out of the VR headset scenario.
Yeah. So I love it. I can't recommend it enough. If you own PlayStation VR, go buy this game. I know it's been a rocky road with PlayStation VR. And again, I apologize. I did tell a lot of you people to buy it. Maybe you're pissed off at me or disappointed that I recommended it and you aren't happy with it. But I think if you buy this and you play it, you'll be like, you'll be able to at least say, I see where Shane was coming from. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say that this rationalized my purchase or I feel okay that I spent all that money on it at this point. I just kind of written it off as a loss. But this was a nice little reminder that, hey, there is still some life left in this thing, and it has a chance yet to redeem itself a little bit. Mm-hmm. So $40 available now. Astrobot Rescue Mission, only for PlayStation VR. You'll never be able to get it on Vive or Rift or any of those. That is a PlayStation exclusive. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about game streaming, because that really was kind of the big topic.
Also, bold move to make the pun in the lower third there about a fly that, like, eats you, basically.
Yeah. Well, you missed the lower third earlier. That was your recommendation for Assassin's Creed.
Was that Play Mystios for me? Yeah.
It was, yep. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk about game streaming, because for whatever reason, this week was the week where the dam just broke for game streaming from 2 different directions. What are we going to talk about first, actually? Make sure I got them lined up for Sam.
Well, didn't today, like, Sony even finally confirmed, like, yeah, we're working on another system.
Yeah.
It's like, thanks.
Yeah, I think we all knew that.
Thanks for that update, bro.
Well, there was significance to it, because the way Sony stated it was there's still a need for hardware.
Right. And
because I think maybe
if
Sony's
they're starting
like,
to admit that stuff now, it means like E3, we're going to see some new stuff.
Probably
not released that year, really, but like I think they're going to finally start talking about the next generation.
But I think what you brought up is a cogent point, in that this was a reaction to what we're about to talk about.
Yes.
Because you have Microsoft and Google talking about these crazy brand new streaming platforms, and you have Sony over here saying, hey,
we like hardware.
Consoles still matter over here. And I think for a large segment of consumers, I think they want to hear that.
Oh, I agree with them.
Yeah, and I want to hear that too. I'm one of the people who wants to hear it. But some of the stuff we've heard this week is pretty intriguing. So the first thing we're going to talk about is Project xCloud. And that is Microsoft's initiative, which I believe, and Pactor believes, is the Scarlet Initiative that we've been hearing a lot about.
Yeah.
And so, essentially, what you're seeing right now is the assembly of one of the blades that will be used for xCloud. And according to Microsoft, each one of those blades is equivalent, it will be able to serve like 10 to 20 people playing games, which doesn't seem like that much. I mean, you're going to need a lot of freaking blades, dude, to make that work. And I guess there they are. They do have a ton of them.
They have a lot of them.
They've got a lot of them. But the whole idea with xCloud is that you'll be able to stream games to your mobile phone and presumably pretty much any device within the next 5 or 6 years. They're starting everything off with mobile for obvious reasons, because the install base obviously is gigantic.
Pactor's dream of the TV console.
It's all happening.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny. Like, the stuff that he's been talking about for the last literally 3 years on Pactor Factor, all of it is happening. People always hate on him. Oh, none of his stuff ever comes true. No, it actually almost all of it comes true.
He's pretty on target when it comes to the long-range tech stuff, because he knows everyone who's working on it.
He does. He talks to people, and he can't tell you on the show who he's been talking to.
But he has hinted, like he's talked about how, it'll be a TV, and you can just take your, like, it's like the Amazon Fire Stick, and you stick it. I mean, that's what this would be. You'd have to get a little Xbox stick, and you'd stick it in, and that would be your system.
Before we record Pactor Factor, Pac and I, while we're setting up to shoot and everything, we just talk. And he tells me
Which is better than abject silence.
Right. And he tells me who he's been talking to. And he'll say, they told me this and they told me that. And then we'll shoot the show. And then parts of the stuff that we talked about will make it into the show. But I'm the only person who knows. And sometimes he will say who he talked to, but a lot of times he doesn't. He'll be like, I feel that this is going to happen. And before we will have recorded the show, he will have told me, I talked to somebody who told me this was going to happen. But he can't say it on the show. So he'll just say, I have a feeling this is going to happen. Watch Pactor Factor very closely, people. You're getting nuggets in there that you may not even realize. They may be going right over your head, but he's giving you intel that you're not going to get anywhere else. So
he's been talking about this kind of stuff for like 3 years.
No, from like the first episode of in the first episode, people thought he was crazy. Like, oh, he's insane. Just Pactor being Pactor, just making stuff up. And then, like, the next year, it was like, oh, I don't think he's wrong on this part of it. And I guarantee you, the next time he talks about it, they'll be like, oh, he was right. Like, just, he's not making stuff up, people.
I did not think that Microsoft is going to go in this hard on this idea.
It is going in hard. I mean, the tech apparently is pretty good. The few people who have actually had a chance to sample it.
I mean, if it's doing the thing that they talk about where, like, basically it is running the program more or less natively on your hardware, but it's just sort of streaming the necessary assets in and out as it goes. Like, that's a more acceptable situation to me. I still don't think I am quite convinced, but like it sure is interesting.
I'm still very skeptical, because to me, it's gonna have. You're gonna have to at least be on Wi-Fi,
right?
Because we're gonna talk in a minute about another new streaming technology from Google where Wi-Fi isn't good enough. And so I have a...
And when you're Google and you run Google Fiber, it makes a lot of sense to do it that way.
It absolutely does. So Microsoft, I think that your phone is going to have to be on Wi-Fi for it to work, at the very least.
For sure.
Even 5G, I think, which is kind of rolling out now, I still don't think it's going to be quite there.
5G would be pushing in, and also you're going to blow your data cap pretty fast.
Yep. If you're streaming all those assets in there, man, you're going to blow your data cap real fast. That's the other concern with this, is bandwidth. It's like, how much are these programs sending? Because now that net neutrality has been repealed, more data caps are coming into play. People are starting to get gouged for their internet service. How is this going to affect that? How are these new streaming services? How much are they sending? Is it really just little bits, or is it big pieces of code that they're sending across that you're going to have to pay for ultimately via your plan? So how interested are you personally in xCloud, Matt? Is it something you think you might find yourself doing? No?
It has no use to me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to buy the new system, and I'm going to hook it to my television, and...
I don't think it's for people like us, though.
No, I don't think so.
It's for people who probably would never buy a console.
But I say the same thing about the Switch all the time. I don't care about playing it on a smaller screen in an inferior situation. And I was like, I'm just going to wait till I get to my very expensive home theater setup where I can play things at the maximum fidelity with that's what I want to do. Like, this stuff is cool. It's a cool tech trick, but I don't have any use for it. I don't want to play stuff on a tablet upstairs or whatever. It's like, it's not like a... to me, it's still a solution in search of a problem.
Another angle on this for Microsoft is it could use this as a pawn or a chip with publishers. This is proprietary tech, although Google also, it looks like, it's kind of getting into the same game. But this is proprietary tech. You could go to publishers and say, hey, for X percent for X amount of dollars, we'll put your game on this service, and you are suddenly reaching another, how many million people is it? Hundreds of millions of people.
Well, depending on what you have to do to have access to it.
Right. But think about it. The install base for Xbox One right now, I'm guessing 30, 40 million, something like that. Mm-hmm. If you can give a publisher the opportunity to put its game without doing anything else, just running the same code it already built for PC or console, if you can crack open an audience of hundreds of millions of people.
Well, I figure this is where they're trying, where Game Pass is trying to lead.
Probably.
Right? Like they want you, they don't even care if you have an Xbox at that point. They want you to subscribe to Game Pass, and now you can play Xbox games on your phone.
They're just like every other successful company right now. They're transitioning from a hardware company to a services company. Mm-hmm. It's happening everywhere. Hardware is going to be controlled and successful for a select few companies 10 years from now. It's not going to be something that every company is going to even want to jump into.
I don't, what am I going to do that with? Like if that is something you need Wi-Fi for, where am I doing that?
Yeah.
Like in an airport, I guess?
Again, I think you're going to have to use Wi-Fi, and I think people are going to have to do it from home. And I think...
But why don't I just go in the other room and play it on the console?
But see, you're missing what I was saying earlier, which is this is not for us. We're not the audience for this.
But then
it's the people who have cell phones who would never buy a console. But all of a sudden, they're like, wait a minute. I can play the new Halo without buying a $500 console?
But they will buy a controller with a weird mount thing on it?
You don't have to. You can also play with touch controls.
Even the most casual of casual is going to find that
There's
irritating.
like 30 million people playing Fortnite on mobile right now.
Yeah, well...
Imagine if you cracked open an entire library of software to those people, not just one or two games. It could be huge for Microsoft. Will we care? Probably not. Mm-hmm. It's not for us. But all the money that Microsoft generates off this, what's it going to do with it?
But are they?
It's going to buy new studios. It's going to invest in software for all of us.
But where's the money coming from? Subscribing to Game Pass? Is that what that is?
From licensing fees, from the publishers giving you money to put their game on your platform, so it goes out to 200 million people or whatever. That's where they're going to generate their cash. And you could generate a lot. I mean, imagine if for every game sale, Microsoft gets $2 or whatever. And you're literally, the market is hundreds of millions of people instead of 30. So this is a smart thing for Microsoft. It's not for us, but it's ultimately going to work out for us because more money in the Xbox division is more exclusive software for us to play.
Is the stream dead?
So let's talk next about Google. And Google has its own project going on. And this is a little different because the press has actually been messing around with this. It's called Google Project Stream. Real catchy name. But it's kind of capturing the attention right now because people have actually used it and reported on it. So Google Project Stream is a game streaming service that streams right into Google Chrome, right into the browser. So you don't need, well, I guess you need a PC, but you don't need any extra hardware other than your PC. And obviously you need the Chrome browser. The reports of this is select people in the press have had a chance to try it out, and the reports have been absolutely glowing. Literally, like, I think I read, was it Polygon or PC Gamer? One of the two were like, I'd rather use this than to have a big PC rig and all this gear that I have to pay for, and I'd rather just play it. They're like, yep, you can see that there's a couple times where if there's a lot of action on screen, you get some fragmentation here and there, and they said the audio is maybe a little over compressed right now, but otherwise, they said, we're watching right now footage of Odyssey on Google streaming service. This is direct feed capture from Google of playing it in Google Chrome. Think about that. From a business perspective, which do you think has the opportunity to be more successful?
I don't know. Like this is all just stupid tech tricks to me. Like, what are you paying for here? Like, what are you controlling it with in the browser? What kind of connection? Do I need Google Fiber to make it look like this or run like this? Like, what is it?
So they did say that on Wi-Fi, that's where they experienced most of the fragmentation and the pixelization, and the audio compression was the worst on Wi-Fi, but it still played. They said it'll just scale it down so that instead of running it on high, you're running it on medium or whatever. But they said it did work. But hardwired, they said you could not really tell the difference between this and playing it on a piece of hardware, a console, which is pretty freaking impressive.
Yeah.
And a lot of the journalists who have been covering this so far are the same people who have been using PlayStation Now and these other, and back in the day, the early pioneers of game streaming. They've tried them all, and every single person who has tried this has been blown away by it. So it appears that Google has found some sort of a breakthrough. They said most importantly, there was no latency on gameplay. They were talking about playing this and how obviously you have like the parry or the dodge, and you have that very strict window you need to hit that button. They said that they never ever felt like that they missed it because of any kind of latency or anything like that. I mean, the reports have just been absolutely glowing from people who would know better.
Yeah, but also some of the same people who said the same thing about Gaikai.
I don't know if anybody ever praised those early ones.
Oh, they did.
Really?
Oh, they did. Like, because when Gaikai first did its first big thing, I remember Adam went to it, and everybody came back from that being like, "Oh my God, it's going to revolutionize everything."
Really?
And then nothing happened for 6 years.
I never heard that. And OnLive just got murdered by the press.
Yeah, OnLive was not. OnLive was not as. I mean, there's a reason Sony bought Gaikai. Not OnLive. Yeah, but the idea was a little ahead of its time, I guess, back then. But I don't know. It's cool. I don't know what their subscription idea is there. What you want me to pay to do that.
They haven't even really outlined the business part of it yet. And Google today had its big thing where they show off all their new phones and all their tablets and all that, and they did not even talk about it, which is a little weird.
I don't know. I'm generally more inclined to want things to be running natively locally. And that's maybe just me being old, but I would rather be able to play something still if the internet goes out, or I'd rather be able to tweak my own hardware to deal with something that's not working properly.
But see, the idea is that everything is just optimized perfectly on their end.
Yeah, well, that means someone's got to keep that optimized, and someone's got to do it. And if it's not working right on their end, then you're the one who suffers from it. And maybe you got to call in some helpline and be like, "Hey, can you turn that up, please?"
Can you go kick that blade that my console's being served on?
I understand the motivation to want to turn a lot of this into that sort of service thing, and especially in terms of cutting out the cost of retail production. I'm certainly not averse to that because I do buy probably 80% of my stuff digitally now.
Yeah.
But I still prefer it to be a local system.
Me too. And again, I don't think this is for us. I mean,
right.
Google gave it to the gaming press because it knew that people would trust. First of all, Google knew its product was good. And second of all, it knew that people would trust the opinions of console hardcore games journalists.
I guess I'm just not super convinced that the market is really there. It's just yes, there's millions of people who don't buy consoles and would never consider doing that. But are those people also really maybe interested in paying
Are they envious that they don't have one?
Yeah, are there tons of these people that would play these console games if they were $15 subscription and streaming over a hard line? Is that a thing? Is that a? I mean, I would assume that they do the research on that, but like you say, the business model is not really presented yet. It's more like this tech thing where it's can we do it?
Yeah. And
it looks like we can.
Yeah. Here's another angle maybe to consider is even the PC gamer who doesn't want to spend $1,000 on the new cards.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a GTX 1080. In a couple years, that thing's going to seem dated compared to the cards that are out. It's probably going to be dated to the new cards that NVIDIA just announced. And if you could give me the quality of the new RTX cards, I think they're called, right? Streaming, I'm there. If I could,
unless it's annoying. I mean, I remember the early days of Netflix when shit just looked like it was running on a toaster sometimes, and like the consistency is important to me,
It
and
is,
like
yeah.
presentation. I mean, that's why I have my own hardware and my own setup, and I don't want to play things on a
You
phone
push the
screen and all
button,
this
it
stuff.
comes
Yeah.
on, and it plays video games.
Like it's simple. I mean, it's cool. I still say solution in search of a problem. If they can find a way to make it a desirable thing to do, I think saving money on like RTX cards or the equivalent is a good example. But to do that, you have to have this thing running at. I mean, for me to replace that card cost.
Right.
I mean, I appreciate not having to spend the cost, but that thing better run at 60 frames a second at 4K or native with no weird hiccups, and it has to have no lag on the gameplay. I mean, that thing has to deliver an experience on the level of buying that card if you want me to subscribe to whatever X amount per month, which,
Well,
let's be honest,
I don't think that'll ever happen. I don't think that's even technically possible.
well, then look, if you're going to add up the subscription costs for this, or whatever you have to pay the extra money for like each game or whatever,
I don't think that'll be the case, though. I think you'll just buy the game. Like, I think you'll just buy Assassin's Creed Odyssey for that service and play it. You'll spend the same amount, $60 maybe, or whatever.
Forget it. Never. If I don't own something for paying $60 for it, forget it. I would never do that, ever. Because that service is going to go away one day.
Yeah.
At least with like Steam or something, if I get some kind of notification, I can download the data, or like on PSN. We're gonna shut down the Xbox One servers in 2034 or whatever. Well, okay, I got a big 10 terabyte hard drive. I'm gonna install everything I own on that system, or assuming it doesn't carry forward as a library to the future systems or whatever. And I got it. Like, I have to play it offline. I can't play the multiplayer or whatever, but I got it. It's there. If I pay $60 for a game that only streams on me and I never get to actually own it in any sense, no way. No way in hell. Like, that's the whole problem people had with the Xbox before.
Yeah.
Was like,
but
you didn't
if you think
have
about
it.
someone who has like a GTX 970 or even like a 1070 or whatever, and they're looking at that $1,000 graphics card, and they're like, even if I could get GTX 1080 graphics,
Sure,
without having to spend the money to buy the $600 to buy that.
Sure, but I don't believe for 1 second you're not going to have to pay Google something to do this, in addition to buying whatever the game.
Well, Google would
things
get
are.
the cut from Ubisoft.
Yeah, you're still going to have to pay for the actual service Google is providing.
Maybe.
There's no way the streaming is free. There's no way this is like Voodoo or something for games. Google has to get their money out of it, because that's a ridiculously expensive thing that you can't subsidize just on a game by game basis from publisher fees. Like, in the end, once add up the number of years you have a graphics card, now add up the amount of money you spend on a subscription every year for this, and how much is that?
But that's the model for xCloud from Microsoft.
Yeah, well, I just don't buy it. I mean, we'll see what the business model turns out to be. But I would be extremely surprised if you aren't paying Google something to do this.
Yeah.
As a consumer, like, otherwise, what are they doing? What's the point?
Yeah.
Like sure, the publishers would maybe pay to have access to that kind of audience, but the point of being a service provider, the way Google is trying to do this, like, would be to get money monthly from the millions, theoretically, people who want to do this, because that's where you get your money, to be Google money.
I think that would be a mistake, though.
I think that's the plan. I mean, I don't know what else it would be.
It might be, but I think that would be a huge mistake, because eventually the market is going to get so crowded that it's like, which service do you subscribe to?
Right. Well, that's I think what it comes down to there is which one works best.
Yeah. I think the money would just get spread too thin so that no one ends up being successful.
And now you're about where I am on it.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much what's going to happen.
We'll see. The tech sounds pretty impressive. At least I'm impressed with it.
Tech is cool. I just don't think
it's for me. I think it's easy for us to be like, I don't care about it, so no one's going to care about it. But that's not always the case.
Well, I mean, at some point you're going to need...
Like, I don't really care about Fortnite, but,
yeah, but
a lot of people do.
But, like, I can see the usage scenario for Fortnite much easier than this, especially because the Fortnite business model is already in place.
Free.
Well, not totally free. They're making a lot of money on that.
Well,
game.
yeah. It could be. It can be free.
I don't see a lot of microtransaction opportunity on this, for Google or whatever. We need to know more about it. We need to see it, work in a bunch of different scenarios. The fact that it works for video games, does that also work for 4K movies? Because that's a big shortcoming of current streaming movies. Is like the 4K thing is very hard to do well. Blu-ray.
That's a good point, actually.
Blu-ray discs.
If this technology is that good,
if you can handle that kind of a data pipeline,
Yeah.
is it applicable to non-interactive content as well?
I mean, that may be where their angle, actually,
Yeah.
if they're really thinking about generating revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, if there's one thing that could, 10 years down the line really dethrone Netflix in that regard, it would be them jumping ahead on that tech before Netflix can. But if you don't think Netflix is working on something similar, you're crazy.
No, of course they are. But isn't it funny, though, that Netflix isn't the first to debut something like this? I mean, if anybody was going to, it should be Netflix. His whole business is built around it.
Well, not really, because Netflix isn't a thing for video games.
Yeah.
I mean, GameFly...
But it's a streaming service.
It's a streaming service, but this is a different
It's trying
beast.
to send big files through skinny pipes.
Yeah, but this is just a very different beast in terms of that. And I understand why Netflix did not throw a lot of research behind that, but it could be a convergent tech, is what I'm saying. I mean, the company theoretically you would expect to throw money at this idea would be GameFly, but GameFly, some people don't even realize it still exists.
I still see commercials all the time. I watch like NHL Network, and they have like the worst TV commercials because nobody wants to advertise there. So they have like FarmersOnly.com and all this other crap. And like GameFly is advertised on there all the time.
Wow.
Which, I mean, obviously it shows that, they're advertising on NHL Network instead of NBC or whatever, that they're not doing so great. So, I don't know. This is just like, I guess you can't really say it's the first foray into it because it's really like the third.
Yeah, this has been smoldering for almost 10 years, this
Yeah.
whole idea.
And what happens to PlayStation Now if its tech because PlayStation Now, in all honesty, is pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's like I don't really want to play
first
games
impression
that
for this
way.
kind of thing.
Like and so, what happens to PlayStation Now if these services come online? Are people going to care?
No, I mean, well, Sony better be working on some stuff to upgrade it. That's all I could say.
I don't know. It
mean,
almost feels like it's a fundamental thing.
Well, no, you got to keep up with the curve. Like if they intend to continue this service, it's going to have to do what these new technologies show you can do, or they're going to have to double down on hardware, which, today's statement would lean slightly in the direction of doubling down on hardware versus this kind of service. I don't know. This is all this we won't know until probably we start to see what moves these companies make starting probably next E3. I think that's where you'll get your first hints.
Yeah. I mean, we're already getting hints. I mean,
yeah.
This is what we're getting right now is the hint. I think by E3, Microsoft should be ready to blow this sucker out big time.
Yeah.
You also start thinking if you're a publisher about your back catalog and getting all that stuff on there, and like it just opens up a whole new market of people and a gigantic market of people as well. So
I mean, the way they could maybe do it, which would be a little sleazy to me, but like you could put like the new exclusives on the Xbox streaming service, maybe not earlier, but cheaper.
Yeah.
Because at some point, someone has to start undercutting retail brick and mortar prices. Because for a long time, that's been the thing. It's like, why isn't digital cheaper than brick and mortar, than physical copies?
Because the publishers
don't want to piss off Walmart, basically.
Or GameStop,
at some point, someone's got to make that leap.
Yeah.
Someone's got to finally make that leap into like, okay, digital's where it's going. Someone's got to be the first penguin off that ice floe. It says, okay, if you want the digital owned copy or the physical copy, it's $60. If you want our streaming version, it's $30.
Yeah. Yep.
And some people are going to go for that. I would not.
Oh, I think a lot of people would go for that.
For half price, accepting the lack of ownership over the material in exchange for half price on launch day, that's not a bad deal.
I think a lot of people would do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if the quality is up to what people are saying.
Yeah.
Where it's like 1080p, crystal clear.
Well, and also if there's one thing we know.
No latency.
Something like 2 years into the 360's existence, something like 55% of them were hooked up with component cables.
Yeah.
Or with like composite cables.
Composite cables, yeah.
People don't notice.
Yeah.
They don't realize. So, like,
they really don't.
So like the idea of the mainstream audience would be held back by the graphical fidelity of something that was like, high settings versus ultra, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. It's like I said a couple weeks ago on the show, the importance of graphical fidelity, it just, to me, it's on this steady curve downwards.
Well, it's also, even for me, it's a steady curve downwards the more time passes since I bought my last graphics card, the less I care.
Yeah.
When I first buy those graphics cards, I'm like, I must milk every last frame out of this has to be this, and this shader doesn't working right. I need to fix that. I'm going to wait for a patch until this shader works, or I'm not going to disable that. And like now, I'm just like,
you just play games.
I'm just gonna play it on the PlayStation. I don't care. It's like,
It's funny how that works.
There's a curve from how long it's been since you spent money on the thing that makes the graphics.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yep. So we'll see. It is the next frontier, whether we like it or not. I mean, 20 years from now, we are not going to have consoles. That's just the truth. It's just not going to happen. How quickly, if it's really 20 years or it's 10 years from now, I think that's kind of the X factor that we don't know yet. But I think when we finally all get a chance to check out these technologies, I think we'll have a better idea of when that's going to happen.
I wonder what that will be. If like maybe there won't be any systems anymore. You'll just
there won't be.
You subscribe to a service and you buy the thing, or maybe you buy a little like USB chip and you stick it in. Maybe I'll just stick it in your brain.
By then, we might be implanting things in our spine.
Don't forget the PlayStation 9 commercial.
All right.
Where the guy just inhales the new game.
I forgot about that. All right, let's move along. We're going to talk next about, well, we've already talked about Switch a little bit in this episode. We're going to talk about it more, though, because the Wall Street Journal broke this week.
The Japanese one, right?
Was it?
That's what I read. It was the Japanese Wall Street Journal or something.
No, I didn't know that. But
I don't know what that was.
Yeah, I didn't know there was a Japanese Wall Street Journal.
I wasn't clear if it was like there was a Japanese edition of it that reported on it, or if there's a Japanese paper that is the equivalent of the Wall Street Journal.
I'm sure someone in chat will be able to help us out with that. But
you might need to restart your chat. I think it crashed a while back.
No. Whether it was Wall Street Journal East or West, the Wall Street Journal reported that, thank you, WC Esquire, for subscribing via Twitch Prime. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that was like an hour ago.
Oh, was it?
You should probably quit that and restart.
Okay. Anyway, the Wall Street Journal said that it has good sources that Nintendo is going to release a new version of Switch next year. Mm. And I don't think that comes as a big surprise to either of us.
No, it's about the right time.
Yeah,
for Nintendo,
and it's very typical. Particularly if you consider the Switch a handheld. I mean, it may have another 2 iterations before it's all said and done, to be perfectly honest. So it's not that big of a surprise that Nintendo is going to do it. Again, if you consider Switch a handheld and not a console, because Nintendo doesn't really update its consoles. Handhelds, it's gung-ho over it. So that's not a big surprise. But what I wanted to do is kind of do a check on Switch and create a wish list for things that we want changed in the next version of Switch, and then discuss whether it's just how likely or feasible it is that Nintendo would do that. Mm-hmm. So, Matt, what are the features or the changes that you would like to see for Switch V2?
More power, but that's not going to happen.
How likely do you think that is?
0.
Yeah,
I think this is going to be like a DS Lite thing. I think it's going to be at most form factor. My guess is form factor is going to be pretty much the same, because if you change the form factor too much, you invalidate all your accessories. Like the Joy-Cons kind of lock you into the size that the system is, one way or the other. And so like the idea of like a much smaller one or a much like bigger one just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Because then you kind of lose.
I'm like pondering it right now,
right. I mean, I guess you could stick Joy-Cons on the size of something like the size of like an iPad Air 2 or whatever, but that would be pretty weird.
It would look weird, yeah.
But
Nintendo has never been averse to creating hardware.
Well, nothing would look weirder than the Virtual Boy, probably,
or the original like 3DS.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing looked like a prototype that they put on the market.
But the 3DS?
No, the original
DS. Yeah, that thing's a weird looking beast.
Yeah.
But my guess would be it's going to have longer battery life and a better screen. Like a maybe not OLED, but like
there's no way Nintendo will put an OLED screen on it.
But I think it'll have a better screen.
Yeah.
That's all I expect, frankly.
What do you want though?
I want a Switch Pro that is like the PS4 Pro, that is more powerful, runs everything at a better resolution, smoother, better graphics, and has no portability factor, and it's just a frickin' console. I want a more powerful console scaled up that just hooks to the TV and completely removes the handheld version, which is never going to happen because the name of the thing is a Switch. Like it invalidates the point of the system.
Why would you want to get rid of the portability?
Because I don't.
Why not just have it there and just not use it?
Because the reason that it can't be as powerful is because it has to be portable.
Yes. I don't know if that's true.
Well, yes, because that's why they use the Tegra chip and all that stuff. Like, I want an
right,
actual
but they
console.
could just put a Tegra X2 in there instead of the X1 that they have now.
In theory, but they're not gonna, because that would be more expensive. I think it's going to be exact same hardware in terms of like
functionality and form factor. You mean?
Form factor. I mean, I could see them changing sort of little things. I don't know, but I think it's going to be basically the same thing with something physical that makes it obvious it's the different system. Like it has to have that. I don't know what that would be.
Ergonomic.
Some kind of ergonomic change. Yeah, something like that. Maybe with the Joy-Con, something modular. Because I mean, let's face it. When you take the Joy-Cons off, the Switch is a rectangle.
It is.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's no.
It's just a screen. That's all it is.
But I think it's mainly going to have improvements in battery life and maybe a better
towards
screen.
Portability stuff. You mean?
That's because frankly, like if you're looking at the deficiencies of the system as it functions as intended, because I use it as a console. I don't care about any of the portability stuff. But if you're talking about, if I'm looking at this as in a holistic way at this system, and what's the biggest problem it has in terms of functionality, it's that the batteries last 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
If you can double that, maybe, I think you've dramatically improved the usefulness of it as a portable system.
Just for
that
myself,
would be my first
thinking
priority.
about cross-country flights that take 5 to 6 hours, my Switch, sometimes I don't take it on trips with me because I'm like, it's not going to make it all the way through the trip. It's like...
And a large number of people, I don't remember what the poll numbers were, but it was a massive majority use it as a portable system more often. So if I'm Nintendo, I'm thinking my priority is to make it last longer on the road and to just make it look better when you look at the screen. And the screen, the existing screen is fine, but it's got some ghosting. It has some image retention problems. Like some improvements on that front would go. I mean, that's not something you could sell it on really, but that would be something I would like to include in a new revision of it, certainly.
Realistically, my best guess is that whatever Nintendo is going to do with the hardware, they're going to find a way to make it cheaper.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to improve things much. I think when they say new version of Switch, they're going to try to find a way to make the Switch for like $80.
Yeah, well, I mean, the more realistic version of this is it just doesn't come with a dock.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's just the system.
Yeah. And then you could buy the dock separately if
for
you
$120
want.
or something for a piece of plastic.
No, you're right. Like I mean, that's really what it comes down to. But just selling the handheld version of it.
Sell the handheld version of it with a better stand.
Yeah.
Like a nicer stand.
Yeah, one that you can actually rely on it to stand up the system without like wobbling and falling over. I would not be surprised if they put out new Joy-Cons that are more ergonomic, that snap on. Even if you have the old system, you
with
can...
With a D-pad?
Yeah, with a D-pad. Even if you have the old system, it'll still fit. It'll still line up. I think the measurements will be all the same, but I think it'll actually fit your hand instead of being this flat thing on the bottom that barely has any curves to it and doesn't really fit into your hand at all.
Maybe like a more like deluxe one that's like not as concerned with being a sideways controller.
Yeah.
It's more for use on the sides of the system.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to improve Switch. Like everyone's hoping for more RAM or more storage. I mean, storage to me is the biggest thing. Like I had to spend money on a stupid SD card because this thing doesn't have any space.
You could throw them a bone and maybe put 64 gigs built in. Memory's cheap.
That's why Nintendo tells you to get an SD card though, because memory's cheap.
But you could. I wouldn't be floored if they put more built-in memory into it.
I think
that you're running into that more and more as an issue.
Oh yeah, it's a major issue. Like it's insane that I had to spend I ended up getting it for on Black Friday prices or whatever, so I got a really good deal. But normally the 128 gig card that I got is like $70. You're already, the price of Switch is ridiculous for what you're getting. It's way overpriced. Nintendo always has to make a profit on its hardware. It's never willing to take a loss for its fans, which is another thing that really pisses me off about Nintendo. because it has the most dedicated fans in the industry, and it rarely, if ever, throws them a bone. If anything, it takes advantage of the fact that its fans are so dedicated,
but then the
and
fans,
manipulates them.
fans thank them for that, so it doesn't really
I
matter.
know. That's their own fault. I mean, of
course it is.
They're making their bed, and now they're lying.
But there's no incentive for Nintendo to stop doing that.
Oh, of course
so
not.
Why
not
would
when it's all about money. Especially when those people don't think that Nintendo thinks it's all about money. They think,
Reggie,
oh, they like me.
Reggie's their buddy.
Yeah, Reggie, my buddy. Like, nope. Reggie's counting your money on the way to buy his 10th car. I'm not even exaggerating. Like, that's the reality of it. But realistically, I really don't think Nintendo will improve. Look at the 3DS. Did they ever improve the 3DS, or did they just take features away?
The new 3DS was improved.
It had like the second analog nub.
It was more powerful.
And it was more powerful. Yeah. And then it got
they
this
charged
weird.
for it.
They did, and then it got in this weird zone where some games would work and some games wouldn't.
They never fully embraced it. It was like there's like very few games that are only on new 3DS. It was like Xenoblade and a couple others. Maybe was it Smash Brothers? I think.
Here's one thing I would not be surprised if Nintendo makes a new dock.
Yeah.
And a dock that doesn't scratch it. That you can. That doesn't. It's not like this huge contraption you got to put your Switch in. It's just something that plugs into the bottom of the Switch.
The dock has always felt like a very last-minute addition.
It's like the first version of the DS.
Yeah,
it's like not really ready for prime time.
I will always be convinced, unless, like, say, I don't know, like, God, I was gonna say Reggie, but I don't know if I'd believe him if he said it. It was like someone directly told me, if Iwata came back and told me directly, this was not originally a handheld, because I firmly believe the Switch was supposed to be the 3DS's replacement, and when the Wii U crashed and burned, they decided, let's just make it a console as well, make it a hybrid, because the dock is such a it's not Nintendo.
It's not.
It's like Nintendo doesn't put out stuff like that.
Nintendo doesn't put out something that destroys its own products.
And it's just so flimsy and cheap, and it distorts when it's too hot. And
it's
like,
$80.
It's awful. It's so dumb, and it's not like even if you want to talk about like the shitty products that didn't work from Nintendo, like the U-Force or the Virtual Boy or even the Power Glove, all that stuff was better made than the dock.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's
so I could see a new dock, or maybe
I could see the dock that they always intended to do, but they just didn't have time to make it.
Or maybe the new
launch.
Switch actually just has like an HDMI port on it.
Now you're talking crazy.
That makes too much sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just have the HDMI port. Maybe it's a micro HDMI port or whatever, so they save 50 cents, because that's how Nintendo is. Maybe it's a micro HDMI port out, and you have to buy an adapter or whatever to go to full HDMI. And then you just charge it by plugging the frickin' thing in.
Yeah, I think that's too easy.
But that is something that's
because they don't want that. They want like they don't want it to be unplug cord, unplug. They want you to put it in the thing that makes it magically work. They want it to. They want to have that experience of
that moment.
Yeah,
where people are like, ugh.
Because they don't want it. Well, yeah, because they don't want it to be like, oh, I'm unplugging and plugging in AV equipment.
Right.
They want it to be like, oh, I put it in the magic slot, and now it's
on
the television.
You know? The magic.
And that's valid. That's a. I mean, that's a.
From a business perspective, it absolutely is. Yeah.
Like that's it makes it a special thing instead of just plugging another cable in that any other system would use.
Yeah.
So I understand why they don't want to do that. I would prefer they did. I'd prefer if it was just like a nice little stand/dock thing, and you just sort of you stuck it on that, and that's where it charged, and you plugged it into the HDMI, and you were done.
Yeah.
But like that's just not. That's not the appeal to Nintendo. I think the appeal of the Switch is in part that sort of like instant switch over connection thing that you do with the dock. I would just like the dock to be a better piece of material.
Yeah, but I think really isn't the USP for the Switch the controller snapping into the tablet? I mean, that really is. That's what I think it has to keep.
Oh yeah.
The dock.
That's why I said, like, you know, my Switch, my ideal Switch would just be a new Nintendo console.
Right.
It doesn't do any of that crap. It runs things really pretty.
Yeah. So you start thinking about how they improve the power of the 3DS over time, things just started getting murky. Where it's like, okay, well, this game will only run on the new 3DS, while this would run on the 2DS, and like, you need the analog nub for this game. It just got really murky and confusing. And in honesty, Nintendo just kind of bailed on the whole thing.
Yeah,
Like,
well, it wasn't that confusing. It was very clear. The games were very clearly labeled if they only worked on the new 3DS. But there weren't many of them because there's no point. Like the new 3DS didn't sell in the critical mass numbers that'd be required to justify development of new 3DS only games.
Yeah.
And you know, it was a factor of splitting the user base that just didn't make any sense.
And I don't see where it did Nintendo any good. And that's
No,
why
I don't think so.
That's why I don't think that's what we're going to get with the new
No,
version
I don't
of
think
Switch.
that'll happen. I mean,
They're
also-
gonna refine
also, that's
what's
just
there.
not how any of this. I mean, at most, and I don't think there will be a power difference on the new system. But if there were, it would just be like, well, it runs it better. It'll be like a PS4 Pro. That's the new paradigm: is an upgraded piece of hardware under the same generational name, runs all the same stuff. It just runs it better. And you will never see a PS4 Pro game that doesn't work on the PS4.
Yeah.
At least not until we move into a new generation. And even then, I mean, I think that one day you will have like games that run on the PS5 and the PS4 Pro and the PS4 Vanilla, and on the PS4 Vanilla they just sort of look bad.
Ish.
Yeah. It's just like
it's like playing on low settings or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I don't think you'll ever hit a point where like, well, you can only have it like that.
Where you get cut off.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the new paradigm. And there's even rumors that Sony's working on ways to move your library forward to the PS5, and I mean I think that's just how it's going to work from now on. So I would be very surprised if Nintendo were ever to try that only on new 3DS thing again, because I just don't think that worked, and it wasn't worth it. Like nothing that only ran on the new 3DS really looked any better than anything on the old 3. I mean, yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles.
Hyrule Warriors ran with a higher frame rate. Like you could play it on the old version and it would chug a little bit.
It really wasn't playable on the old version.
Yeah.
It was too choppy.
Yep.
And like Xenoblade ran well, and it was only on the new 3DS. And you can see why, because it was a Wii game, but it looked awful. Like it was, like
and look, when I say Nintendo's going to figure out a way to make it cheaper, that doesn't mean I'm saying there's going to be a price cut.
Oh, no.
No, I'm not saying like now it's going to be cheaper to you. I'm saying that now Nintendo's profit margin is far better than it was before.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh, they're going to do this so they can sell it for $200 or $150 or whatever.
No.
They're going to keep it the same price. They're going to try to spin it to you that it's better than the other one. And they're going to say you're getting a better system than before, but at the same price.
Or I think there will be some kind of like little incentive things about it, and then they'll probably drop the price of the old model until those are gone.
Until they're gone. Until the stock's gone.
But I see this as kind of the thing where like, you got the new 3DS model that then replaced the old 3DS. Not the new 3DS in the sense of the more powerful system, but you'd get revisions of the hardware that were then now the new normal.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this is going to be.
I still think
Same system, same power, but it just looks a little different, and now that's the Switch.
I do think eventually we're going to get just a one-piece handheld that plays Switch games. Mm-hmm. Where the controllers do not slide off of the hardware. It's literally just one unit that has a cart slot, and you can just play Switch games on it. It may be...
Well, then how are you going to play snipper clips?
Yeah. Well, it may be when... That's a good point, though. There are some games
There's a lot of games. I mean, Mario Party requires...
You're right.
To detach
No, you're right. You're absolutely... Well... I mean, they're doing the same thing with the 3DS right now.
Yeah.
There's some games that will work on one and won't work on the other, or kind of work on one and work better on the other. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. But no matter what, I do not see a price drop unless Nintendo has a really rough Q4. Or ultimately has a really tough 2018, which right now it's tracking towards, but Nintendo has two big aces in the hole coming up here.
Yeah.
With Pokemon and Smash Brothers. So I really, really don't see that happening, and therefore
I don't know if
don't
those
see a
are...
price drop.
Well, Pokemon more than Smash Brothers. I don't know if those are system sellers.
I think Pokemon will absolutely sell
Pokemon
systems.
could be. I think most of the
Smash,
I
think
most of the people that
already
want
have
Smash Brothers already own a Switch.
Yeah, I'd agree
Those
with
are the
that,
hardcore. I mean, I've seen people predicting that game's going to sell 25 million copies
in like the first year.
in like probably lifetime.
A lifetime.
But the top selling Switch game, the top selling Smash Brothers is Brawl, which sold like 14 million, which is like I don't see this
On a console, it only sold 23 million. That's pretty impressive.
Brawl.
Yeah. Wait, Brawl is
Brawl is Wii.
Oh, Brawl is Wii. Right.
That was
How much did Melee sell on GameCube?
9-ish. I want to say.
That sounds about right.
I just don't see, because the total sales of the whole series to this point, I think it was like 40 million copies of the whole thing. I don't see the Switch version of Smash Brothers selling more than half of the total lifetime sales of the brand.
Yeah.
That seems a little extensive.
It depends on how the Switch goes. I mean, it's really at an inflection point right now.
Mm-hmm.
It is teetering on becoming a smashing success or becoming another Nintendo console. Mm-hmm. And I think this Q4 is really going to tell the tale of where Switch is going in the future.
I think they're hinging real hard on whether they can convert Pokemon Go players to that Let's Go game.
They are.
That is the goal here.
That's certainly why it was titled that way.
Definitely. I just don't know if it's going to work. If it does, I think they've opened up a whole new avenue for the system. I don't know. It's a coin flip right now.
I will say this much. I am shocked at how many people still play Pokemon Go.
It's still big.
It is still litters on my social feeds.
Yep.
People are like, I caught a Caterpie. I'm like, dude, you're still playing that? Like, what the hell, man?
It's still millions of people. I mean, it's not.
I know. It's
not the
bigger
critical
now
mass.
than it was.
Yeah.
It's like it went down, and now it's come right back up.
It came back up. Yeah,
it's almost back to where it was when it first launched.
Well, they've made a lot of improvements and made it less annoying to play.
I guess.
For a while there,
I haven't even touched it.
A couple of those patches really broke a lot of good things about it, but
well, then they had those events that were like total shit shows.
Con that basically no one could get online or mistakes were made.
Yeah, I honestly don't see a lot of Pokemon Go people buying a Switch.
No, I think it's like I said. I think it's a pastime. It's a thing you do when you're standing around waiting for your friends to show up at the restaurant and you realize, oh yeah, I could Pokemon.
Yeah.
It's not something I think anyone wants to. Well, I don't think the majority of the audience that plays Pokemon Go. There's some of the audience that's super casual about the Pokemon thing. Just remember playing as a kid and having it on their phone. I don't think they want to go home and sit down and play a remake of the original game. And the other people who are hardcore Pokemon fans and also play Pokemon Go, they're waiting for the new generation next year on the Switch.
Unless, if Nintendo were smart, it would do something with Let's Go that gives you a huge advantage in Pokemon Go.
I mean, you can transfer. There is a transfer thing going on.
Right, but if they could find a way, and I'm sure they're probably already doing this, where you transfer your Pokemon from Go into Let's Go, and then you can power level them. Well, already 4 times the speed you could.
I don't know about that, but
or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
To incentivize people.
I don't think it's going to be that dramatic.
Even if it's double.
But they've already mined out the data that there's going to be a Pokemon that's exclusive to the games that you can only get by playing both of them,
which they've been doing for a long time.
Oh, I mean,
that was since Red and Blue.
Getting all the
with Mew.
Yeah, well, that was a special thing you had to go to a place for.
Right.
You could
trade it through a cable, right?
In theory, most people didn't. But and then I think there were some problems with trading Mew as well. It was some weird thing. You could glitch some stuff out.
But this is something Nintendo's been doing for a long time.
It's different
to get people to buy different versions.
Yeah, but this is different because it's a totally different format. You've never had 2 games so different from one another work together in the way that this Pokemon. Well,
they're on different platforms.
Yeah. And I mean, Nintendo has made getting all the Pokemon, especially the legendary stuff, pain in the ass for couple of generations now. Where you have to go to GameStop,
you have to go in
get the codes for things, and do this thing over
spot.
here, and look at this, and go to Toys R Us, and you got then you got the shiny ones over here, and I tried to keep up on that for X and Y and Omega Red and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and I was going back and forth to games.
I gave up.
It got to the point where I'd go into one of the local GameStops and be like, "We don't have any today." I'm just here to get another game. And so, I
knew who you were.
I mean, and some of these, they'll just hand you a stack of them sometimes, and you can give them away to people on Twitter and shit. But yeah, it's not a self-contained thing. There's a lot of promotional stuff, but yeah, someone has mined out that there's a Pokemon Go, Let's Go crossover thing, and it's going to be the only way you get it. I'm sure that will drag some people in, unless you can get it by connecting to a friend's Pokemon Let's Go, in which case they'll just do that. One person will have it, and they'll just do it.
I highly doubt Nintendo will let that happen.
That would be a very unusual move for Nintendo. They usually think of that ahead of time.
That's not how Nintendo rolls, Matt. It's just not.
I just don't know. I don't know if Pokemon Go seems so wrapped around the idea of actually going
in AR,
which is why it's called Pokemon Go. That Pokemon sit on couch doesn't seem like something that's going to
let's
really
go back inside.
Yes. Let's all go to the lobby and get ourselves a snack.
All right.
Snack-a-chew.
All right, let's move on. We're going to move on to our last topic of episode 143. Just 5 topics this week, but I think it's been 5 good ones. We're going to talk about Fallout 76. We've been railing on this game here on GameFace for a few months now, wondering when will we finally get to see what it actually plays and looks like, and that moment came this week.
I keep thinking... This is dating myself, but there's a bunch of gas stations called 76.
Yeah.
With the big
No, they still
orange
exist.
ball. They're still around, yeah. But back in the day when I was a young kid, very young, I was obsessed with the balls, the orange,
big
the
orange
orange
balls.
balls that rotated above the gas stations. We would go in the car, and I'd look out the window the whole time, and I was like 2 or 3, and I'd always be like, another ball. There's another ball, like another ball, and so that was like a big thing. My grandpa thought that was the cutest thing in the world. So so he would buy the little 76 like wind antenna balls and stuff for me to play with. So I had 76 memorabilia all over the place when I was a kid. And the slogan thing was the spirit. It was a song. It was like a jingle. It's like the spirit of 76.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And so whenever I see Fallout 76, that's what I think of. Fallout 76. Like I was like, ooh.
Well, there was
jazzy.
also the Spirit of 76 big thing back in 1976.
Well, yeah, because it was the bicentennial.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
But that was like kind of the thing that 76.
But it was like weird as a
into.
kid growing up. You know, I didn't really know what was going on. But then, like in the 80s, I would see all this Spirit of 76 crap around like my parents' house or whatever. It was like a big thing back then.
Well,
that I didn't experience, but it was a big deal apparently.
Yeah, because I was born in 76.
Yeah.
But it was like the wreckage of that celebration kind of remained
It
for
must
like
have been
5
one
to 10
hell of a
years.
party.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Sad we
All right.
missed it.
Let's talk about Fallout 76.
Speaking of wreckage.
There is a lot of footage out there now. It went from 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah. It's almost like they realized it was coming up.
Yeah, they're going to have to release it.
Oh, crap.
We may have to show people the game finally.
Bring everybody in and let them capture direct feed right now.
Yep. And so did you get to watch a lot of the footage?
I watched, was it GameSpot? Oh, I hate that. GameSpot
You're not alone in that.
Did like a 50-minute thing. Like they played for 3 hours and cut it down like 50 minutes of important stuff. I watched that and I read like the 12 things you should know that you might not know and all the basic stuff. I admit I didn't make it through all 50 minutes.
I don't think you're alone in that one, Matt.
There's a point at which I get it. It's a Fallout 4 mod. I understand. You are really tripling down on the whole crafting building thing, which is like not a thing I find interesting. Ooh. It's
not a very pretty game.
No, it is.
Look at this hole right here.
ugly.
Look at it's like an octagon. When he goes, look at that.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, it is Fallout 4 repurposed as an always online game.
Yep.
So I guess, yeah, using mod isn't that far out of the realm of reason.
Yeah, I think this is what I watched.
An official mod, but a mod no less.
It's I mean, it's as much of a one as like say New Vegas was of 3.
Yeah. Now, how do you? Now, look, we don't want to completely crap on this because I think that they are doing some smart stuff with how they're setting it up. I mean, obviously, your mileage is going to vary with Fallout 4. Either you've played it to death and you don't want to play it again, or you love it and you can't get enough of it and you want more of it. But there are things I feel like that they're doing with the game that are kind of clever. So you mentioned like the base building and the camp building. But the cool thing about this game is that your base is portable. So you don't have to venture like all the way back to go back and craft. It kind of travels along with you, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Which to me is a big upgrade over Fallout 4. But then there's these other things called workshops that are littered around the environment, and then you use those to craft like the really killer gear in the game. But the cool thing about it is that you have to take control of the workshop, and then you have to defend it, or somebody else can come in and take over the workshop. And you'll get an alert. Your workshop is under attack, and you can set it up with defenses and turrets and all that stuff, and other players can come and try to take your workshop. And you'll get an alert, someone's attacking your workshop, you travel over there, hopefully your defenses have held up. I like that. I think that's a cool idea. I think it could be fun. I think it's a kind of a fun way to do PvP.
It's a cool idea that will sound cool until the instant it makes contact with the actual player base.
It's possible. I thought that was a really cool idea. I think the way they're handling the loot makes sense. Loot containers are instanced. Everybody gets different stuff, so you're not like fighting or scrounging over the spoils of each battle that takes place. I really like the way they're doing PvP. Have you heard about how they're doing it?
Not really. I didn't get a clear sense of that from watching the video.
So there's a system...
Except when the Bethesda guy just murdered them all. That was fun. That was a very accurate depiction of what I think the game will be like.
So PvP, there's this thing called assassination targets that you have to opt into. So if you don't want to do PvP in this game, you don't have to. You can opt out of it. People can attack you at all times, but they've jimmied the levels. So they've jimmied both the levels and the power of each player, and they've jimmied the payouts to discourage sort of high-level players from griefing the lower-level players. So first of all...
That is not why people grief lower-level players.
They just do it to
They do it to piss them off.
They do, yeah.
They don't care what the loot looks like.
Well, they're trying to curb it. So essentially, like if a high-level player kills you, one, it's hard to kill you because they kind of buff your defense skill if you're up against a high-powered character. So it would become very tedious of them trying to chip you down to kill you. But second of all, if they do kill you, they get like hardly anything for it. So they're basically doing everything they can to incentivize people to not just go and grief lower-level characters. I think that's at least a smart idea. So there's damage-resistant scaling so that you can hang with the higher-level players if you're low-level. And then you get low rewards for killing low-level players. Assassination targets is kind of cool, though. So you opt into it. You're like, okay, I want to do this. And basically, it's a round robin of people going after each other to kill them. And again, you can opt in, you can opt out. It's not just a part of the game. You're not going to always have somebody hunting you down unless you want it. But if you want it, you can have somebody, a lot like the mercenaries in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, someone who's always hunting you down in the game to kind of add that extra layer of tension to what, for a lot of people at this point, is kind of a rote experience. I hate to say it, but after you played Fallout 3 and 4 for probably a total of 120 hours, you kind of need something to spice it up, I think. I don't think they could have just made Fallout 5 and have it be a smashing success this early. I think they would have had to wait till the next-gen consoles to do that.
Definitely, because it's got to look better than this from now on.
But the best thing about the assassination...
Same with Elder Scrolls, really.
The best stuff about the assassination targets in PvP is that you don't get caps or experience from it. It's purely just to add tension and a new element to the overall experience. And obviously, any PvP opponent is going to be far smarter than an opponent that's controlled by computer AI. At least now. Maybe in 5 years that'll be the case. But now it is. So if you also want to add a little bit of challenge to the game, that's one way to do it. There are bleed outs in the game.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then once you do die, you can choose where you want to respawn. So it doesn't just respawn you in some random location. One thing I noticed just watching the footage is that there's load times when going indoors and outdoors. Did you notice that?
Yeah, it's a Fallout classic.
It is, but when you're talking about like an always online open world game, I think that's maybe where you got to draw the line and say that's not good enough anymore. I don't know.
Well,
that seems like a huge contrivance to me.
I think you could use that phrase about a lot of things in this footage.
Yeah. No pause button.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's always online, but that's a big change for Fallout.
No VATS.
No VATS.
I mean,
it's like, what's it called, like active VATS or something?
Yeah, there is VATS, but it's basically like a weird like auto-aim feature.
Right,
where like you have a percentage chance of automatically hitting whatever body part you're choosing, whether you're pointing at them or not.
Yeah.
That's basically what happens,
right.
Which is dumb. But like, it's like... That's the thing about this that really like sinks it for me is even just watching this. It's like Fallout 4 tried to be more of an action shooter.
It did.
It did
and
not.
Now it's gone all the way.
It did not accomplish that, in my opinion.
Yeah, because the shooting mechanics were crap.
Yeah, and this doesn't look any different to me. This looks not good to shoot play in. Like I think this game looks awful.
Really?
Just absolutely repulsively awful.
Really?
Like don't want to play this for a second.
Wow.
Like
Oh, come on. You're going to play it.
No, I'm not. I'm not buying this game.
Really?
I don't want to play any of this. I have no interest in what they're doing with this.
Wow.
I will probably play Fallout 5 whenever that comes along.
Wow,
But this,
I am surprised to hear that.
I have zero interest in what they're doing here. Like, it feels like it, and I might be wrong, but like what I've watched about this game, like it looks like it's just like brainless wandering of the same thing over and over again, and like people running around doing stupid emotes, and like it's everything I don't like about multiplayer stuff. I just there doesn't seem to be any real story. The exploration is just sort of still hinging on kind of gathering nonsense that fills up your inventory so you can build stuff later, which is not something I care about. I do like the nuke people thing. I think that's cool. I mean, that's a cool mechanic that I can imagine getting annoying really fast, but it fits the property really well.
Well, apparently the nukes, one, aren't all that frequent, and two, they're easy to get away from. But they did say that it actually changes the environment. So after an area is nuked, everything's dead, all the foliage has gone off the trees, all the grass is burned up. So it does actually alter the environment. I don't know how long that lasts, or if it just lasts for like 5 seconds and it goes back to the way it was before.
I think it basically creates a temporary high-level area. Like that whole section.
Because then new creatures start coming.
New creatures come out, it becomes radioactive, you need more resources to survive it. Basically, for a while, where the place that got nuked is like a top tier level area that only high level players will be able to survive in.
That's kind of cool.
But it's a cool idea, like to kind of create a higher risk, higher reward zone off of what is already a pretty major, game changer of a feature. Like that's like the coolest thing I think, and the newest idea they have in this. It just doesn't. To take real advantage of it, you'd have to be high enough level that you have to play it for a long time, and I just look at this and all I see is all the hours I spent playing Fallout 4 and getting bored and walking away from it.
Yeah. You were not a big fan of Fallout 4 at first.
I was not.
You came around on it a little bit.
I replayed it earlier this year because I basically ended up with all the DLC somehow for free, I think on Xbox Live Gold. And then the base game was for sale on Xbox Live for like $9, so I'm like, why not? So I played it. I actually did play it again for like 30 or so hours.
That's
and
a lot.
I enjoyed it. I think part of it, the reason I liked it better this time is I got to the Valentine quests earlier, and that's probably the best part of the game.
Absolutely. Not even close.
And so that was fun, but when I was done with that, I just sort of drifted away from it. And that was also like during a lull in releases, and more stuff came out, and I didn't have to go back to a 2-year-old game I didn't even like that much. And it was just like the combining the constant crafting thing with the whole your inventory management is such a big deal because of weight. That is the opposite of fun to me.
I hate encumbrance. That's one of my biggest pet peeves in games. I hate it.
And it's not a
like you let me go into this fantasy world, but then you ground me with weight.
Right.
It's like,
and
what that makes no sense.
Like, I don't think it's a coincidence. Like, when I played The Witcher 3 on PC, the first time I played it was on PC, the first thing I did, the only mod I put into it was to remove weight limit.
Yeah.
And
I would do that too.
And then when I went back to play it on Xbox One X earlier at the beginning of this year, I was like, well, I want to try it and see what it looks like with all the HDR and everything, but like, I wonder if I'll be able to deal with an unmodded inventory. And it turned out that in all the updates they'd done since then, basically you had like inventory weight upgrade stuff to the point that like I never ran out of inventory space ever because they tweaked it until people stopped complaining, I think.
Yeah.
And it's just not an interesting thing. I don't know what the weight limits are on this game. Maybe they are astronomically high. It took me 20 hours to hit the inventory limit on Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yeah.
Which early on I didn't
even know there was a weight limit.
There is 350 items.
Really?
You can
I haven't hit it yet. I didn't even know there was one.
Yep.
I had no idea.
There's a little thing up in the upper right corner of the inventory. It says like whatever out of 350, and I finally gathered so many pairs of boots that they
I sell or scrap all that stuff.
I was in a wandering exploration mode, and for hours and hours and hours, and didn't sell anything off for like probably like 10 hours.
Yeah.
And like finally the game was like, you need to put down some helmets, sir. But yeah, it like none of what I see here, and none of what I've read about this, all the impressions that have come out, like none of it makes it something I want to play. Certainly something I don't want to pay $60 for. I think maybe because of the online nature of it, I could see myself maybe down the line, like Destiny style, thinking like, well, the upgrades they've made and the changes they made or the improvements or whatever seem pretty cool. I feel like it could evolve to a point where it would be something I'd want to play, but what I'm seeing right now just looks like a mod of a Fallout game that I have already played.
Couple more notes I have. No CPU NPCs. You get quests just through like poking around the world and examining things.
Meh.
How do you feel about that?
I think that's dumb.
That's weird.
I'm
not the world's biggest MMO player, but just seems like
it feels anathema to Fallout to me.
Yeah, it just seems like they're trying to be different
Fallout.
just to be different, not because it's better. Then there's a card-based perk system.
The perk stuff seemed interesting. Like the way they've tweaked the stat stuff is interesting. Like the way they've made charisma important is kind of a cool idea.
That's a pretty cool idea.
Where that like influences how much your abilities transfer to your teammates.
Yep.
Like that's a neat idea. I like that.
I like that too.
I don't like that the bobbleheads are temporary power-ups instead of permanent upgrades to your character. Like I know that's a really specific Fallout old school nerd problem, but like the bobbleheads should be the best thing you can find.
Oh, for sure.
And now they're just like an hour-long boost to something, and that's annoying.
There are server-wide events,
Of course.
which you would expect, but in the Fallout universe, that's kind of a big deal. I mean, is it really the hook for this? Hey, you haven't really liked MMOs before, maybe, but now it's in the Fallout universe, so you might.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know.
Isn't that kind of the pitch?
I don't know if I call this an MMO. Like it's just like a mildly mid-scale shooter, online shooter co-op thing. Like I don't. Like it's just not an interesting concept to me. Like this could be Transformers, and I wouldn't be all that excited about it. You know?
Really?
Yeah. Plenty of Transformers games I don't bother to play because most of them are mobile garbage. That's why. But I'm just saying, like, this is not a thing that like feeds into my interest in what I want to play, and making it Fallout. Maybe at one point it would have gotten my attention, but like it certainly didn't make Fallout branding didn't make Brotherhood of Steel any better.
Yeah.
It didn't make me play Fallout Tactics any longer. So it's just another wasteland.
Yeah,
It's cool that it's in West Virginia. At least it looks different.
It does. The card-based perk system. There's one other detail that I picked up on, and that was that for your first 4 levels of the game, you can be immune to PvP or other players attacking you. You have to use the pacifist perk, and if you enable that for the first 4 levels, nobody can attack you no matter what. So that can kind of ease you into that environment with the assassination targets and just the griefers who are going to want to just run around and just give everybody else a bad day. I'm certainly more excited for this than you are.
You'd have to be.
Yeah, because you're rock bottom.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, all
you
that.
Can't go lower than 0.
And then on top of that, you want me to keep drinking on a regular basis, so I don't get parched. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, This is the. I mean, I don't play survival mode stuff in the Fallout, other games either. It's just not a thing I'm interested in. In part because it's not my preferred game type, and also in part because like I don't think the way Bethesda does it is very good. Like that's that same thing with like why I don't. If this was maybe like Borderlands, maybe I'd be more interested because I know the gunplay is going to be cool.
Borderlands 2 VR announced today. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
That seems like a real good way to make you sick real fast.
Yep, absolutely.
Like I just, like even watching them play this, it's like it's doing that thing that I
hate
had
the
in Fallout
insects
4,
in these
where it's like, oh,
games.
no, it's
hate
this side, no, it's that side, no, I missed him on this side, missed him on that side. It's like it doesn't look like fun to me.
Yeah, I mean the shooting mechanics in this franchise are not good. I mean Fallout 4 was really the first test for it, and they're not great. So, and you're gonna be doing a whole lot of shooting in this game, like a ton of it. But I am certainly more excited for this than you are. I will absolutely give it a chance, and I will absolutely play it. I'm not a big MMO. I wouldn't even call myself a fan of MMOs at all. In fact, I typically detest MMOs.
Are they calling this an MMO?
No,
like
not really.
I would never call this an MMO. Like
why, though, would you not call it an MMO?
Because it's a limited server.
Massively?
It's not massively. Is
that true?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's got to be a certain number of people per map, per server.
Why is that the case?
Because I'm pretty sure the technology doesn't exist to have tens of thousands of people on the single map.
Then how they do it in PC MMOs?
Because those are broken up into different chunks, and there are different servers. But like a server for like World of Warcraft will have thousands of people on it. I'm pretty sure a server for this, it's just a single West Virginia map. I think you're going to have like maybe 60 people or something.
Really?
Like, yeah, isn't that MMO? It's not
Oh,
MMO.
I didn't think that. I thought there was going to be tons of people.
It's like a couple dozen players per map or something. You're not. There's not like hundreds of people playing with you. It's like a Battlefield game.
Are you sure about that?
I'm definitely sure about that. This is not an MMO.
Oh, that's disappointing. I thought for sure it was.
No. They've never positioned it as. I mean, I'm sure they've said. Let me see. I'm sure, or at least maybe this week they said. I don't know.
One thing I will say that was encouraging is a lot of people who played it said that they struggled to tell the difference when playing by themselves, playing this game versus playing Fallout 4. Mm-hmm. They said that if you just want to play by yourself, it's completely feasible to do so, and they saw very few discernible differences between playing this or playing Fallout 4 by yourself. So,
Fallout 76 project lead Jeff Gardner revealed that the current form of the game supports about 24 to 32 players per server.
there you go. How many players on each World of Warcraft server? Do you know?
I probably used to know. I don't
like 10,000, 100,000? Like, do you know ballpark?
I don't. It's probably changed so much. I don't know.
Well, we kept complaining. We kept asking for Fallout, and we got it.
In
And
Orgrimmar and Stormwind, you have about 1,000 people per city, balancing out the server population.
Okay, yeah, big difference.
Max server capacity says anywhere. Google says anywhere between 5,000 and 10,000.
There you go, big difference. So
This
you're right.
Yeah, this is not an
This
MMO.
is like MMO light.
Well, no, it's a multiplayer.
This is like MMO
It's-
Zero.
It's just a multiplayer survival game.
Yeah.
It's like DayZ or whatever.
I thought Days had more people than that.
I think it does have more than that, but it doesn't have thousands.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess there's never really been a hard definition of what is the break point for player count before it's an MMO versus just an online game. I don't know if that's ever been determined.
Well, I think it's thousands.
Yeah.
I mean, massively means something.
Yeah.
I mean, Battlefield isn't a massively multiplayer game.
That's really
And they have
disappointing
64
to think
people.
there's only going to be like 30 players in each server. That doesn't seem like enough for as big as the world is typically in a Fallout game. It seems like it'd be really empty. I don't know. Well,
Maybe they have a way to kind of corral you, and you can see where everybody is on the map at any point.
yeah, and there are, I don't know, it seems like if you're going to have that whole assassination system, you should have a lot more human players than that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's just like 1/30th of the total player count is a person coming after you.
So DayZ has, I think, it looks like 80.
Yeah,
80
not
per,
much either.
80 per server. 80 per game.
That's the same number as Call of Duty Blackout,
Yep.
the Battle Royale mode for Call of Duty. So,
Oh, did you know there is a battle royale in Assassin's Creed?
No.
Not multiplayer, but you can.
Oh.
There's a 100-man battle.
Oh,
you
I
can
haven't got
find.
there yet.
Yeah, that plays the same. It's like 100 people just trying to kill each other.
I'll probably find it at like 3 in the morning tonight. Like I found a lot of other things in
it's
that
a
game.
side quest. Oh, like if you're not like poking around at unimportant islands, you may miss it. But
Do they call it like something snarky?
It's called the 100-hand fight or 100-hand battle or something like that.
Gotcha. All right. Well, you really hate Fallout 76?
I don't know if I hate it, but I just don't have any interest in playing it.
I do. I'm going to check it out. So it's not.
If I played it, I might hate it. I don't know.
It's not too far away. So we'll be getting our hands on it pretty soon. I usually get Bethesda review code
Was
way
it, like,
early.
First week of November?
Yeah. And I usually get Bethesda review code really early, and their embargoes are usually okay. Like, they'll be like, okay, you can talk about this, this, and this for, like, the week before, and so we should be able to talk about it on the show here pretty soon. So, not much longer to wait to get our hands on the real McCoy. But, yeah, I mean, look, I'm disappointed as well. I'm not trying to say, like, you know, it's all rainbows and unicorns. I'm disappointed in what I've seen so far, but I haven't completely shut the door on it because I do think there are some unique concepts and ideas that they're kind of imparting into the online stuff that I haven't really seen in other shooters.
I might
Not
be-
a lot of it, but
I
there's
mean,
some.
I might be more open to it if I was like July, but like I got Assassin's Creed to play. Starlight
Yeah.
comes out next week, and then you got Red Dead Redemption, and it's like,
stiff competition.
well, I mean,
What bothers me the most, I think, is that other projects were pushed back for this, probably. Maybe not
I don't think. I mean, Bethesda
by like years or whatever, but
This is not the core Bethesda team. Like this didn't delay Elder Scrolls 6 or anything. Like, this is not. They didn't make this.
Who's developing this?
I can't remember. It was the guys who did that game that was shown once and disappeared. You remember?
Battle Cry?
Yeah, it's those guys.
Oh, Battle Cry Studio did this.
That's what I thought. Isn't
No.
it?
But that means that we never got Battle Cry because of this, Matt.
Well,
Screw with it.
you can't get everything.
You can't always get what you want. So there you go. That's Fallout 76 initial impressions based upon other people's playtime. So once we get our chance to give it a go, maybe our impressions will change. Maybe Matt's impressions will change a little bit for the better.
Good luck.
But right now, he's definitely not having it. And I think there's possibilities there. I think there's some cool ideas in the game that could make it fun.
Yeah, they code. I mean, they're Bethesda Game Studios Austin now, and not by Battle Cry Studios for obvious reasons. This is co-developed with Bethesda Game Studios. I'm pretty sure this game. I mean, in the schedule they got one thing a year, but I'm pretty sure that they've got other stuff. They've got
co-developed
bigger fish to
means
fry.
they were giving that studio assets.
Right. they were Bethesda Game Studio was instructing them
right. Yeah.
on
they
how to do it. They were
developing.
making sure it fit the Fallout brand and everything was copacetic with that and everything. I'm sure there was guidance, but like I don't think it took time and resources away from like Elder Scrolls 6 or what else are they working? Starfield.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's all. I think those games just have to wait for the next generation, basically.
Bro, well, I think we're definitely getting them next generation.
Yeah.
Whether that was a part
Whether
of the
we like
plan
it or
all
not,
along
whether they like it or not.
I don't think there's any choice.
Look, as long as it's not on the Gamebryo thing, I'm fine. Like,
Yeah.
I'll wait. I can wait as long as it doesn't look like that again. Oh boy.
Yep. All right, it's time to move on for our trailer of the week.
I don't know. Maybe you just remaster Skyrim again.
Again. You can
How
only
do
repackage that game
How
so
come they
many
remaster
times.
Skyrim 14 times and they never did a remaster of like Morrowind? I'd like to play Morrowind again with like Skyrim's production values.
That's what they should do.
And I know that there's
Morrowind.
I know there's fan mods to do that and stuff, but like, I'd buy that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would. I think a lot of people haven't played Morrowind.
No, I don't think so.
So a lot of people were introduced like on consoles, and Morrowind had kind of come and gone.
Well, the problem is like Morrowind is all text, and you'd have to like revoice everything, and now you're talking about a project that's too expensive to warrant
Never gonna
the
happen.
effort.
Not going to happen. All right, it's time for our trailer of the week. It was actually a terrible week for trailers for whatever reason. I never really know until we go to stack the show, and then I sift the site by trailers and by the last week. And that's when the tale is told. And there were not a lot of great choices this week, but I think we found one worthy of trailer of the week, and that is a trailer for Darksiders 3 called Force Hollow. Let's roll it. Matt, are you hyped for Darksiders 3 at all?
I don't know if hyped is the word I'd use. I keep forgetting it's coming out this year.
Yeah, I think it's going to get swallowed up.
I think you're right. And
I think you're going to be able to buy that game for $25 in February.
I think that's a shame. I like the first one. I think the second one is flawed but interesting. I think it's a shame because like one day it would be nice if they followed up on the cliffhanger of 1.
Yeah.
Where the other 3 horsemen are coming down to help out war, and it's like, and they keep making prequels, and like, I understand like you don't want to commit to like the big shebang really, because like basically like the promise of the cliffhanger at the end of Darksiders 1 is Armageddon times 4,
right?
Basically,
yeah.
But like no one wants to like actually do that, and like
they don't want to have to produce it.
But I think this game is going to tank so hard because it's coming out in late November. No one even knows what it is. Like the hype is gone.
See, this is a danger of
which is terrible because I'm interested.
A small publisher as your publisher, because a game like Darksiders 3, for its publisher, is its biggest game of the year. So if you're the publisher, what are you going to do? You're going to put it out in Q4, which puts it up head-to-head with the best games in the industry. And even if it's really good, it really has no chance. So hopefully the studio working on the game doesn't have an incentive-laden contract.
Yeah. Well, it's THQ Nordic, right?
Yeah.
So, whatever.
I mean, this is their biggest game of the year. They're going to put it out in Q4. I understand why.
I hope it's good. I like the Darksiders games. I think there's a lot of potential in that brand. I think this one looks pretty good. I just think it's going to be completely forgotten in the shuffle. Like, it's just right. It's like...
We won't forget it, but consumers certainly will.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And, like, it's every time they put out new media for it, I'm just like, oh, that's this year. That's so weird. Like, it just kind of came out of nowhere. When they first ran that trailer near the beginning of 2018, I'm like, oh, that's a cool thing to look forward to in like 2 years or something. But then it's like, oh, it's ready.
Oh, here it is.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I knew, though, when IGN started blowing it out, I'm like, oh, that game's farther along than I thought.
And it doesn't even make any sense to like move it to like Q1 because Q1's packed too. So I don't know. Maybe they'll get luck out and get some like Christmas sales or something. Because I'd like to see more.
It would have done way better if it launched in January, February, March.
I'd like to see more of them. I'd like to see more Darksiders. I'd like to see them finish the story. I'd like to see them kind of achieve that. But like, I feel like this might be the end. And then again, I said the same thing about 2. So who knows?
It is a video game zombie.
Yeah.
It was brought back from the dead.
Yeah, I mean, fitting.
It may
for
go
the
back
subject
in the
matter.
grave after this one.
It just seems like there's always going to be somebody that wants to bring that back.
Yeah.
Because I think almost everyone that touches it is like, yeah, there could be something really great in here, and it just hasn't quite happened, and it just keeps not quite happening.
Yeah. All right, let's get to some questions. Let's see. W. Matthew. What do you think of the rumors of Microsoft buying Obsidian? I think it's a good thing. It will let them make AAA games again.
Assuming you think they've ever made AAA games.
Yeah, this is a little weird because Microsoft and Obsidian had like a huge falling out, didn't they?
No, that was Bethesda.
It was Bethesda?
Over New Vegas. That's the rumor.
I thought Microsoft also had... No, I thought Microsoft was co-developing a game with Obsidian at some point, like 4 years ago, and like the whole thing fell through.
I don't remember
Maybe I'm
that.
crazy. I thought I remembered something like that.
I don't remember that, but Obsidian has had a lot of start and stop projects, so it's not impossible.
Obviously, now the most recent project from Obsidian is Pillars of Eternity, which is great. People love it. I didn't love it, but people who like that genre loved it.
Yeah, I don't know if they need that, but like, I mean, financial stability is good, but I think the purchasing of Microsoft, if Microsoft purchased Obsidian, on one hand, it would be nice that like you would have the budget and you'd have the backing, and they wouldn't have to worry about it anymore, and they could just make like top level versions of these kind of games that they're so good at making, and particularly so good at writing.
Yeah.
But it would also be kind of a shame because like they're one of the last long-standing self-running developers, and
They almost went under in 2012.
They came real close a few times. They're a bit of a cockroach, but like they've managed to come back and do it, and it was a kind of a nice little comeback story of like they didn't just come back and like be successful again. They came back and were successful again with the games they'd been successful with before.
Yeah.
Like that's the great thing about the Obsidian story, I think, is that they proved that the stuff they'd always made from the beginning was the thing that people wanted, and just the publishers wouldn't give them a chance.
Yeah.
And then they, the crowdfunding thing allowed them to put that kind of content. And now, like other companies are making those. Larian's making the Divinity games that are like that. I mean, they were right. Like they were completely right. There was a thirst for that, and it would be a shame to see that the end result of that ended up being that they get swallowed by a giant megalith kind of thing.
I wouldn't mind seeing them with some stability and some big budgets and access to all the tools that Microsoft has and all the other studios.
If Microsoft would be willing to let them make the stuff they make without interference, like. Because, there's that temptation of like, oh, well, this Pillars of Eternity thing's pretty cool, but what if it looked like Mass Effect? Because you want to, they want to make it a 3D action game or something. And then you end up with Dragon Age Inquisition, and nobody wants that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a double-edged sword. Like, it'd be nice that if a company like Obsidian could continue to survive as an independent entity, but Microsoft buying them is better than them going away. So I guess I'm kind of ambivalent about it in the end. In the end, I would just like more Obsidian games. However that needs to happen.
Here's one from JReedVic7. What if Nintendo let the Microsoft Surface team that does the Surface Pro hybrid laptops, tablets, design the updated Switch? Is there a realistic way to get a good hybrid that doesn't skimp on performance to such a degree that it can't play current games?
Not for the amount of money Nintendo wants to spend on it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The Microsoft Surface team is definitely not designing the new Switch. I'll answer that part of the question right away. That's definitely not happening. I mean, cost. I mean, if you're willing to spend $600, $700 on the hybrid, yeah. I mean, there are gaming laptops that can compete with Tower. I mean, it can be done, but it costs a lot of money, and they generally run really freaking hot. Like, even those gaming laptops, I mean, there's a reason they made those corny, lap coolers that you put on your lap for those gaming laptops.
I have one of those, and, you don't want to use that on a bed.
It'll burn your leg. It'll set your covers on fire. Yeah, they could do it, but I just think it would be unwieldy, and, yeah. Honestly, feasibly, no. I don't think there really is a way to do it. That would be a consumer-grade electronic. Majora Tom... given that Sony has now officially confirmed they're working on next-generation hardware, and Microsoft confirmed back at E3, what timetable do you think is more likely for when the next console releases, 2019 or 2020?
I still think 2020.
Yeah, I don't think next year either. I think we'll get tech demos at E3 next year.
I think we'll see maybe a demonstration of here's what Last of Us 2 is going to look like when it comes out this fall. Yeah. And here's what Last of Us 2 will look like on PlayStation 5 kind of thing.
But I think we'll get tech demos. We'll get some... I don't think they'll throw around many specs, though, because that probably still isn't final. I think we'll get some tech demos.
Yeah, I think you'll get some, here's a target, demo of, what we think it will look like. It'll be like a Watch Dogs 1 thing. It'll be here's what we think they'll look like.
As long as it's not another Killzone.
And then, I don't know. Watch Dogs was pretty bad, too, in terms of wearing it up.
It was, ultimately.
But at least Watch Dogs was actually running on hardware, and Killzone was not.
Yeah. Here's one from Not Circ. I know you guys don't play the Switch in handheld mode. I do sometimes. I'm watching television or whatever. Matt, though, doesn't. But lately, I've exclusively used the Switch as a handheld. I mainly play Dragon Ball FighterZ, great game, and I like that I can play while commuting on the subway in DC. It gives me a chance to practice combos and other strategies. If you're commuting with your Switch, which games would you play?
I wouldn't bring my Switch with me. It's
I would.
Just too fragile. I wouldn't want to...
Dude, I bought a case that I think could take a bullet.
Well, I mean, I have that Zelda case, which is pretty good, but it's just same with the Vita. I'm I don't want to drag that thing around with me. I don't know what's going to happen to it. It's got analog sticks sticking up. It's just not a thing I would ever occur to me to take it on the road with me. It's a target for someone to swipe it. It's not a thing I would. There's nothing I can play on it that I wouldn't rather play on a TV.
Right, but he's saying while you're commuting, why not just play it?
Because I have a phone.
You'd rather play games on your phone?
I'd rather read or do something else. I don't need to be playing video games at all times because, maybe I'd bring my 3D. I'd bring my 3DS maybe. There's plenty of Fire Emblem shit I haven't finished. It's just not. There's not much that I play. The Switch's advantage is it provides a really console style experience for most of the games they make for it, but that also to me makes it not a very useful handheld experience.
Yeah.
It's not it would never occur to me to take the Switch on the road for anything that wasn't a plane flight where I could really sit down and get into it.
Yeah. For me, I would take my Switch during a commute, but I wouldn't play a lot of 3D games. I would play indie, 2D stuff. I get motion sickness if I read while I'm in a car. On a plane, it's not a problem because you're basically sitting still. I don't get motion sickness on planes. But in a car, a bus, something like that, I do. And
hovercrafts.
Yeah.
Anything that moves.
Yeah,
really.
so
He's
I
a
think
delicate man.
Yeah, so I think if I were playing a 3D game on a bus or something like that, I would probably get ill. So I just play something simple. I think it's easier to concentrate on. You have all this other stuff going on around you while you're playing. And I just think simple games are make for better commuting games, if that makes any sense. Oh, let's see. Mitchell is alive. Would you say 2018 has been a better year for games than 2017? What's been your biggest surprise hit of the year? Good question.
Trying to think about last year.
Last year was pretty damn
There was
good.
some good stuff last
We
year.
sure did.
I don't know. I feel like a couple of the games that are going to determine the answer to that question are not out yet.
Yeah. I think Red Dead will have a lot to say in that.
I think Red Dead has a lot to say. I think Smash Brothers has a lot to say. I think, for me, Darksiders has something to say.
Yeah.
And I like the Just Cause games.
I think one thing I would
I'm
say...
irrationally excited about Starlink because I like spaceships. I mean, there's a lot to do.
Starlink is a sleeper. I think might be a
Yeah.
sleeper hit. I think one thing I would say is Q4 this year seems weaker than last year.
I'd agree with that.
There
Last
are
year
lot
there
of
was a
good
Mario
games.
game.
Right, yeah. But we're not getting like that 1 or 2 week period where we just get dumped on with like 6 amazing games. Maybe part of it is they're just getting smarter with scheduling, but it seems like there's
I think a lot of things converged last year.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people's like top level release happened to be
Well, you got
ready last
Zelda
year.
and Mario in the same year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal on its own. So I think it'll be tough for this year to ultimately be better, but I think it's still possible.
Yeah, it's still really good. Like a big surprise this year. It didn't go the distance for me, but I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed the first like 20 or so hours of Octopath Traveler. Yeah.
Astrobot Rescue Mission. Easy. That's hands down the most pleasant surprise I've had this year. It's not even close. Let's answer a couple more if we got them. Yeah, Johnny Hurricane hooked you up with the info for the booth in Odyssey.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's an arrow there, but I'll look after we're done here. And then we'll know if I've been playing the better version of the game or if I'm just overly thorough.
Yep. All right, so I think that's it for the questions for tonight's episode. Thanks to everybody on the stream for sticking around. Thanks to everybody who hooked us up with Twitch Prime during the stream. Thanks for coming back on the stream after apparently it dropped earlier, which we were not aware of. So
we had a full, the whole block went blacked out last night for a while.
Oh, really?
And it took me a while to get the internet up and running, and again after everything came back, so it might still be a little hiccupy. That might have been my fault.
Whatever.
But yeah, I don't know. I've never seen that happen here before. The whole block just went black.
Weird.
For about like 20 minutes. So.
Might have had something to do with it. Maybe still some hitches in the system. But anyway, thanks for sticking with us after the stream went down for a brief moment. I want to thank everybody for their patronage on Patreon. Some of you guys are still on our old subscription system on Sifted. I want to thank you guys as well for continuing to stay on that. Our Patreon is hurting, though, people. It has gone down $300 in the last 30 days. That's a lot. That's the biggest drop we've ever had by a mile for 1 month. We're teetering right on the edge, folks. Like the Twitch Prime stuff was making up for the drops on our Patreon, but we've kind of reached a point where it's not anymore. So I don't know what the answer is. Most of the people when they leave don't leave a reason why they're leaving our Patreon. They just are. So yeah, tough times on our Patreon right now. Thank God for Twitch Prime. Hope to God it doesn't go away. We're going to be in really deep crap. But thanks to everybody who's bought our shirts so far. Like I said, some of you guys may have got on the stream late. We are running out of orange. So if you want orange, we're already sold out of small, medium, triple XL. And there's like a handful of large and extra large. So if you want orange, you should get in quick. But I highly recommend the white with the violet. You guys are not buying them, but you should be. I don't know if they don't play well on camera or what, but hands down, those shirts look the best in person. I don't know, maybe you guys hate purple or something, but I'm telling you, those shirts are kick-ass. So give them another look. Some of you guys may not be able to get orange now because some of the sizes are gone. So if you're looking for an alternative, I highly recommend the white with the violet. They are dope AF, and I never say that. So that's GameFace 143. We'll be back next Tuesday with another round of game stuff. We'll have some big games on next week's episode as well. I get Black Ops 4 like tonight or tomorrow.
And hopefully Starlink arrives early enough in the day I can play some of that.
Yep. Starlink is... Keep an eye on that one, folks. I think it's one of those games that was kind of slipping under the radar. That
There's a lot more to it than you think.
Yeah. I think a lot of people saw that it was like a Toys to Life game at first and just immediately just wrote it off.
Or they think it's like just kind of a kiddie sort of like, shootery thing. But there's a solar system and you fly around and go to different
it's a
planets.
lot like No Man's Sky.
Yeah, it's like a No Man's Sky if No Man's Sky was like just an arcade, or like more of a arcade,
more accessible
thing,
yeah.
Which is fine. Like
absolutely.
The more things with little star fighters that go like I'm in. I love it. Because sure as hell ain't getting Star Citizen anytime soon. I think the convention for that's tomorrow, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm going to tune in.
Go in there and raise some hell.
Oh, that's over in Austin. I'm not going that far for that crap. Although
you spend so much on ships, you should have like a real ship that you could fly to Austin for the event.
Can argue that. I got some people coming over tomorrow. We're going to watch the keynote and laugh.
Yeah.
Basically.
There you go. All right, so that's it for GameFace 143. Everyone have a great week. We'll see you next time. GameFace is up and out.